Chapter 536. Holy Nether City was in chaos. The reason was because Wang Chao, Hua Yanting, and Yellow Mountain hadn't seen Qinyu return for a long time. Feeling restless, they went out to inquire and were told that the Holy Nether Guard hadn't sent anyone to seek an audience with the new commander. There was also nothing wrong with the city. The three of them were left dumbfounded. After repeatedly asking questions, they confirmed this point. A cold chill drilled out from their hearts and reached their heads. Without a doubt, something had happened to their lord. Qinyu was their last hope. If something were to happen to him, the three of them would never have the chance to take even half a step out of the endless sea. Moreover, they had been accepted and could see the dawn of hope. But now, they had been thrown into the abyss. No matter how good their temper was, they couldn't accept this result. The result was that Wang Chao's group of three had caused a ruckus at the Holy Nether Guard station. The verbal conflict between the two sides had evolved into a brawl. Without surprise, Wang Chao's group of three were beaten up and then thrown into jail. The crime was slandering a superior official. However, this matter involved the new Lord Commander. The Holy Nether Guard Deputy General had been punched in the face, and even though he was annoyed, he didn't dare to conceal anything. He had ample reasons to imprison Wang Chao's group of three. Even if he had offended a trusted commander, he didn't fear retaliation. But who knew what was hidden in today's events? Fu Shan soon obtained the news. His heart skipped a beat before he composed himself. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. He wanted to see just what sort of tricks this new commander had up his sleeve. But the development of events was beyond his expectations. Yaobin really had disappeared. They searched the entire Holy Nether City, but couldn't find any trace of him. Everyone felt restless. The first garrison, General Yuan Zhen, had a heavy expression. There are three newcomers by Yao Bin's side. They say they were sent by Commander Fu Shan and left the mansion for important matters. What do you all think? What nonsense! The second garrison general sneered. In my opinion, it is this new commander who has figured out the situation and is preparing to stir up trouble. The third garrison general nodded. I also think so. His lips curled up in a mocking smile. I have already sent people to investigate this matter. The three newcomers are roaring in the jail, saying that someone is plotting against Yao Bin. What a joke. If he is exiled to the endless sea, the only road left for him is death. Who will be so bored as to try and harm him? After he said that, he remembered that his family situation was that of eating and waiting to die. His face froze for a moment, and he couldn't help but look a little gloomy. Fu Shan, who was sitting in the seat of honor, frowned slightly and suddenly said, I'm only worried that the sacred palace has sensed something, so they suddenly sent a commander here. Yuan Zhen's complexion changed. My lord, are you saying that Yao Bin's sudden disappearance is a countercharge against us? Is it to find a reason for the Saint Palace to move against us? If that was the case, then the situation was serious. The second garrison general said hesitantly, It can't be, right? If the sacred palace had sensed it, they would have already sent a thunderous attack. And I wouldn't have been able to resist it. He paused for a moment before continuing. Moreover, this matter has always been carried out in secret. The number of people in the Holy Nether Guard that have the qualifications to know of this can be counted on two hands. Each one of them has been passed down for several generations, so there is absolutely no problem with their loyalty. Fu Shan waved his hand and said, Well, I just mentioned it casually. You and I will get nothing if we make wild guesses. Bring up the three people around Yao Bin and see if we can find any clues. Everyone nodded. Very soon, Wang Chao and the other two were taken out of the prison and sent to the imperial court. After entering the dungeon, the three of them calmed down after making a ruckus. After discussing with each other, they discovered that the Holy Nether Guard had no reason to assassinate the commander. If they killed Qinyu, not only would they not obtain any benefits, but they would even incur the wrath of the Saint Palace. Thus, after entering the hall, Wang Chao fell to his knees. Vice Commander, Garrison Generals, please hurry and save the Lord Commander. It had already been over a day since Qinyu had left. Thinking of this, his heart felt as if it were filled with stones. Every beat of his heart was especially difficult. Fushan maintained his composure. We also want to know just what happened. At the very least, you have to tell us who it was that plotted against the commander. Only then can we find a direction to rescue him. The one who tricked the commander away was someone from your holy nether guard. But Wang Chao knew that saying these words was useless. Not only would it waste time, but it would also cause the several people in front of him to feel even more ill will towards him. Reporting to Vice Commander, it is someone from outside the endless sea. They do not wish to see the commander continue to live, lest it threaten their status. I ask all of you to give the order to investigate who has recently contacted the outside world. We will definitely be able to catch the person that plotted against the commander. The second garrison general roared, "Shut up! It is impossible for this matter to be related to the Holy Nether Guard. If you dare to recklessly slander us again, I will not forgive you." Hua Yanting shouted, "Big Brother is speaking the truth. Why don't you believe him?" The second garrison general coldly sneered. "Since you don't want to give up, then let's talk. Yao Bin is the commander of the Holy Nether Guard in name, but in truth he is someone exiled from the Endless Sea. What qualifications does he have? What need does he have to be plotted against by others? Your words cannot be trusted at all." Wang Chao's eyes widened. He felt as if he had been mistaken from the very start. When he first came to Holy Nether City, he had wanted to hold on to Qin Yu's thigh and grasp onto his final hope. Thus, when he saw Qin Yu living in the ruins of his residence, he hadn't thought too much about it. He only thought that the Holy Nether Guard had a deep grudge against him and were deliberately trying to embarrass Qin Yu. But now, he looked up, his lips constantly trembling. You don't know who the commander is." Seeing the four people across from him frowning, as if they didn't know what he was up to, Wang Chao painfully closed his eyes, groaning inwardly. Fu Shan's expression darkened. "Just what are you trying to say?" Wang Chao opened his eyes, his voice hollow. "The commander's name is Yao Bin. He passed the Demon Ascension Gates test not too long ago and joined the demonic path as a new disciple." Fu Shan's heart shrank. A new disciple? Even if he committed a grave mistake and was exiled to the Endless Sea, how could he possibly obtain the position of commander? He had always been on guard against Qin Yu, thinking that Qin Yu was a pawn that the Holy Palace was raising. But now it seemed that he was wrong. During the Demon Body's talent test, the commander's cry startled the heavens, triggering a world phenomenon. In the skies of the Holy Land's small world, a 10th sun appeared. Yuan Zhan lost his voice. Sunstep talent. Wang Chao was expressionless. To be more precise, it was the white sun boundary of the sun step. The entire demonic path was shaken and countless undercurrents erupted and surged. Not long after, the commander was exiled to the Endless Sea, where he became the commander of the Holy Nether Guard. His eyebrows twitched several times, and he revealed an angry expression. "When I came to the Endless Sea and learned that he had been appointed as the commander, do you know just how happy I was? As for what this means, I believe the four of you should know better than me. But I never imagined that the Holy Nether Guard would never know that the Lord Commander had a white sun boundary martial talent. This was all our fault. We thought that this was something that everyone in the demonic path knew about, but we never imagined that the Holy Nether Guard would be so isolated from news to such a degree." Tears flowed down, filled with regret. The hall was deathly silent. Fu Shan's complexion was pale. The three Lord Generals also had dazed looks in their eyes. Great waves rumbled in their minds. At this time, there was no need for Wang Chao to play with them. Moreover, the four of them were all experienced individuals, so it wasn't difficult for them to judge whether his words were true or false. White sun boundary. The Holy Nether Guard guarded the Endless Sea for eternity. Only by obtaining the summons of the Holy Monarch could they restore their freedom. Thus, through the countless generations of inheritances, the relationship between the Holy Nether Guard and the Holy Monarch was far closer than everyone knew. To a certain degree, it could even be said that the Holy Nether Guard was a direct force that was completely controlled by the Holy Monarch. Thus, Fu Shan and the others were well aware of what a white sun boundary demon body talent meant. It meant that as long as Yao Bin worked hard enough, he might only need 100 to 200 years to soar up 90,000 miles and reach the demon body saint level, succeeding the throne of the holy monarch. Qin Yu was the commander of the Holy Nether Guard. As long as they got along well with each other, then once he succeeded the throne of the holy monarch, wouldn't it be long before the Holy Nether Guard regained their freedom? Now, it seemed that Qin Yu hadn't been exiled at all. Rather, someone had deliberately sent him here to borrow the safe environment of the endless sea and the protection of the Holy Nether Guard to give him a safe environment to grow. All of this should have been perfect, but what had they done? They recklessly guessed that Qin Yu had been left in the ruins of the commander's mansion, and even when he had been assassinated, they still suspected that he was up to no good. If there really were medicines for regret in this world, they would definitely eat several hundred of them. But with things having come this far, it was already too late. Fu Shan stood up, his roar echoing through the hall. "Everyone move out. No matter the cost, we must find the Lord Commander." He clenched his fists within his sleeves. His nails pierced through his flesh and blood dripped down, but he didn't seem to feel it at all. As the vice commander, Fu Shan's life mission was to lead the Holy Nether Guard and break through this giant cage that imprisoned them. But when hope appeared, he wasn't able to grasp it. If something really happened to Qin Yu, he would never be able to forgive himself for the rest of his life. The Holy Nether Guard moved out in full force. All of Holy Nether City was thrown into chaos. In this massive search and rescue operation, two squad leaders met on the streets. As their eyes met, they could feel the fear in each other's hearts. They suddenly discovered that they had misjudged something. But what was done, and there was no turning back. The two of them could only bury their heads in their heads and swear to bury this matter in their hearts forever. The Holy Nether Guard didn't find anything. Fu Shan didn't hesitate to mobilize Holy Nether City's Great Array formation to determine that Qin Yu hadn't left the city. Then, he vanished from the city. Wang Chao's complexion was deathly pale. The more clues he couldn't find, the more it proved that this matter was carefully arranged. If the Lord Commander had fallen into a trap, he feared he would suffer a disaster. He stood in the rear courtyard of a ruined mansion, looking at the chaotic Holy Nether Guard. His eyes were unfocused as he looked into the distance. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. He felt as if he had missed something. This direction, that was right. How could he have forgotten about that? If the Lord Commander was able to survive in the Demon Ascension Gate's small world, then he definitely wasn't weak. Since the high-level figures of the Holy Nether Guard hadn't done anything, then in Holy Nether City, there was likely no one capable of quietly killing him. If so, then borrowing the strength of others to kill him was the best choice. The more Wang Chao thought about it, the more certain he became. He threw down a few words to quickly report to the vice commander that there was a clue. Then, he leapt over the collapsed courtyard wall and rushed towards the edge of the city. Soon, Fu Shan and the others hurried over. Wang Chao pointed at the potholes in front of him and said, "This subordinate suspects that the Lord Commander has entered this place." But as he thought that it was likely that the Lord Commander had already sensed something was wrong and ran in on his own initiative, the anxious Wang Chao couldn't help but bitterly smile. Hua Yanting and Yellow Mountain revealed a strange look, but they soon disappeared. The two of them weren't idiots. They knew that the Holy Nether Guard needed to save someone, so they certainly couldn't push the responsibility onto the Lord Commander. Fu Shan had a dignified expression. His thoughts raced, and he soon guessed what Wang Chao was thinking. His heart sank. As the vice commander of the Holy Nether Guard, he was in truth the one with the highest authority. He was well aware of just what sort of terrifying killing strength was hidden beneath these potholes. The demon body tempering pill was a waste pill. If it weren't for this, then the nearby commander's residence wouldn't have gradually turned into ruins over the years. There was simply no one that was willing to live here. However, there had always been a great array formation protecting this place. Fu Shan's eyes darkened. Those that had the strength to extend their tentacles into the endless sea were absolutely top influences of the demonic path. It wasn't impossible for them to temporarily cause a problem with the Great Array formation. If Yao Bin had really been tricked into entering this place, and so much time had passed, then he feared he had already perished. Yuan Jun and the others had bitter expressions. The emotions of remorse that had been temporarily suppressed by the emergency rescue mission rose up once more, ruthlessly biting at their hearts. Wang Chao said, "The Lord Commander can still be saved." He pointed a finger. "Several days ago, my brother was unfortunately injured by pill poisons. The Lord Commander easily resolved the pill poisons. He knew that he had to give hope to the Holy Netherguard." He continued to say, "The Lord once said that he didn't fear these pill poisons. He was only curious as to where they came from." Qin Yu naturally hadn't said this, but was it important? The eyes of Fu Shan and the others brightened. Yuan Jun roared out, "What are you waiting for? Hurry and rescue the commander." "Calm down." Fu Shan took a deep breath. "There's a powerful array formation protecting this place. We cannot use brute force to destroy it. Otherwise, the consequences will be inconceivable." He took out a jade slip. "I will immediately send a message to the outside world requesting to open a channel in the array formation. I believe there will soon be a response." As he spoke, his fingers tightened and the jade slip shattered. Wang Chao prayed in his heart, "There is finally hope. Commander, please don't let anything happen to you." At this time, countless people had similar thoughts in their minds. The entire space was quiet, but as time passed, the message from the jade slip sank into the sea. Although Wang Chao had solemnly vowed that Qin Yu didn't fear pill poisons, that was only to reassure the hearts of the people and give Fu Shan and the others hope. In truth, he didn't have any confidence in himself. As he thought about the possibility that the commander was behind the array formation, bitterly resisting the onslaught of pill poisons and struggling between life and death, Wang Chao's heart felt like it was being gripped by a giant invisible hand. He couldn't wait any longer. "Vice Commander." Fu Shan's complexion was dignified. He clenched his teeth and said, "Wait another quarter hour." He lifted a hand and crushed a second jade slip. Wang Chao clenched his teeth. A quarter hour of torment passed. There was still no reply. Before Wang Chao could speak, Fu Shan took a deep breath. "Everyone draw back. Yuan Jun, immediately take some people and arrange an isolating array formation. If something happens to me, you will take over the position of Vice Commander." It was clear that he wanted to personally take action and resist the mystic array formation of the Endless Sea. Yuan Jun was shocked. "No, my lord, it is enough for you to command the rear. This subordinate is willing to help." Fu Shan coldly waved his hand. "You aren't strong enough, so don't waste time. Begin immediately." He turned and looked forwards, his eyes cold and indifferent. He couldn't shirk his responsibility for today's situation. As he thought about how the Holy Netherguard had no hope of escaping, no one knew the torment in his heart. This was Fu Shan's way of redeeming himself. Wang Chao took a step forwards. "I will go with the Vice Commander." He looked at Hua Yanting and Yellow Mountain, preventing them from approaching. "Second brother, third brother, follow me and leave. If I die today, I want you to live well for me." Compared to being trapped in the endless sea for the rest of his life, Wang Chao was more willing to die a glorious death. The crowd began to draw back. Yuan Jun's complexion paled. He quickly led some people to lay down an array formation. Layers of array formation light lit up, isolating Fu Shan and Wang Chao outside. Once the pill poisons erupted, these array formations could buy precious time for the Holy Netherguard to escape. Fu Shan looked at Wang Chao, a bit of surprise in his eyes. But he soon composed himself. He stepped towards the crater in front of him, and a powerful aura broke out from his body. It was like an awakened volcano, causing one's mind to tremble. After the little blue lamp transformed into a great sun that illuminated the small world, its might had clearly increased by a great deal. The waste pills of the demon body-tempering pill that fell down from the yin-yang fish were quickly purified and placed into his storage ring. Then, the projection of the little blue lamp faded away. But with that came a problem. The fierce rumbling of the yin-yang fish would severely affect whether it was alchemy or cultivation. Thus, there were two choices placed in front of Qin Yu. The first was to endure the onslaught of the yin-yang fish and wait for Undying to wake up before continuing until he took away all the waste pills. The disadvantage was that Undying's absorption speed wasn't fast, and he would inevitably waste a massive amount of time. Moreover, the rumbling of the soul might not cause any damage for a short period of time, but if this continued for too long, Qin Yu's soul would definitely be damaged. The second choice was to leave now. As long as the Great Array Formation was discovered by the outside world, it would be simple to leave this place. But the problem was that if he left now, it would be far more difficult to come back in the future. After confirming that the pill poisons couldn't cause any harm to Qin Yu, there wouldn't be anyone like Lei Feng who didn't hesitate to pave the way for him to enter. These two paths weren't easy to choose from, but Qin Yu didn't hesitate. He had to obtain the demon body-tempering pills, waste pills, no matter what, even if he had to damage his soul. But just as he made his decision, Mimi in his soul space seemed to sense his thoughts. She poured a bucket of cold water over his head without hesitation. The array formation here is extremely terrifying. It is enough to resist the attacks of a calamity immortal. I can temporarily block out the majority of the soul impact, but I can't maintain it for too long. If you want to stay here for a long time, the only choice you can make is death. The first choice was directly blocked. Qin Yu fell silent. He looked up at the yin-yang fish. If you were to leave like this, he wouldn't be willing. From the shadow, Undying stepped out. Qin Yu was overjoyed. You finished absorbing them. If this speed was enough, it should be enough to take away all the waste pills. Undying shook his head. How could it be that fast? Before Qin Yu could be disappointed, he tossed out a pleasant surprise. But I have a way to help Little Master smoothly enter and exit this place without being discovered by others. What way? It's hard to say, but the effect is absolutely good. It's just that in order to accomplish this, I will need the help of Little Master's guests. Qin Yu nodded. Speak. Undying's eyes flashed. I won't harm the purple moon and blue sun in your soul space. I just need them to lend me some of their sun and moonlight. Above Qin Yu's head, a blue sun descended. After several breaths of time, purple phantoms appeared. It was clear that they understood the conversation between the two sides and were using their actions to respond. Of course, the true reason wasn't that they cared about their cheap master, Qin Yu, but that they didn't hesitate to sacrifice themselves in order to help him obtain the waste pills. The highly concentrated power of the 9 suns was the fundamental reason they had taken action. Qin Yu was well aware of this, but he didn't care. This was a win-win situation for both sides, so there was no need to worry about anything that would only bring displeasure to himself. Undying smiled. Little Master, please wait a moment. We will be able to leave soon. He lifted a hand. Because he had cut off the connection, the sun and moon phantoms turned into 2 beams of light that howled into Undying's hand. At this moment, no one knew that Undying's judgment had finally been verified. He sighed with satisfaction. It really is the inheritance of the Great Yin and Great Yang Holy Lands, his thoughts stirred. He wanted to warn Qin Yu, but then he remembered that the cultivation methods of these 2 factions both focused on the freedom of the mind and being able to adapt to circumstances. If he warned Qin Yu, it wouldn't be good if Qin Yu was prepared. It would be better to just quietly watch on. Perhaps there would be some unexpected, pleasant surprises. After all, he had already crossed the threshold of both cultivation methods, and there shouldn't be any more backlash. The Great Yin Star and Great Yang Star were 2 holy lands. Just how formidable had they been in the past? Yet, their inheritances had actually appeared on the same person. This was destiny. Undying increasingly felt that his decision was correct. If he followed at Qin Yu's side, then perhaps he could take back everything he had lost in the past. In fact, he might even be able to take back more. A blue and purple light erupted. Layers of light spread out like ripples in water. One could faintly see the phantoms of sun and moon appear on both sides. Undying seemed to sense something. He hesitated for a moment before smiling. Then he formed a new law formula with his hands. This law formula didn't have any real effect. It only caused the spreading blue and purple light to become even more radiant and beautiful, and the phantoms of the sun and moon became even more hazy. Layers of light crashed into the array formation. The imprisoning and isolating rules trembled and retreated, revealing an exit to the outside world. "Little master, you can leave now." Before Undying's voice fell, he turned and melted into a shadow. "Please use your unrivaled and glorious image to awe and subdue those outside." Chinyu stepped out. His figure was covered in a blue and purple halo of light. Beneath the illumination of the sun and moon, he seemed like an ancient heavenly god that had descended. His originally firm and resolute face became even more dignified and mysterious. At the edge of Holy Nether City, Fushan stood in front of the array formation. His aura rose to its strongest point, ready to erupt with a heaven-shaking bombardment in the next moment. Just as he was about to erupt, and a major event with unpredictable consequences was about to occur, Fushan's complexion suddenly changed. In the empty space in front of him, lines suddenly appeared. These were the manifestation of invisible rules, but now they had all been dyed a strange blue and purple color. Even Fushan, who was experienced and shrewd, could not help but widen his eyes in shock when he saw what happened next. He saw that these blue and purple lines of rules were like the tentacles of a living being. They seemed to follow some powerful will as they quietly spread out layer by layer. The ends of the lines of rules hung low, as if expressing their awe and reverence in silence. A channel appeared in front of Fushan. Then there was the sound of light footsteps. As they approached, they carried with them a dreamy aura that left one in a trance. In this inconceivably dazzling scene, Chinyu bathed in a halo of blue and purple light. Above his head, the phantoms of the sun and moon appeared in front of everyone. Chapter 537. Fushan's face was dull, his eyes full of disbelief. He knew the power of the secret formation in the endless sea better than anyone else. Although he had been prepared to attack just now, even if he used his full strength, Fushan still didn't have much confidence that he could break it, much less make the law lines bow and retreat on their own. At this moment, Chinyu's figure suddenly seemed much larger in his eyes. His incomparably ordinary aura suddenly seemed a bit more unfathomable. However, thinking about it from another perspective, the other party had an inconceivable white sun demonic physique. Everything seemed to have a reasonable explanation. After all, how could such a peerless prodigy be as simple as it seemed on the surface? He had already made a mistake and nearly became a sinner of the Holy Netherguard. Now that the heavens had given him another chance, how could he miss it? Fushan took a step back, cupped his fists, and bowed deeply. Subordinate Fushan greets Lord Commander. Compared to the first time they met, this bow was filled with true respect. Undying's little trick had finally played its role. It helped Chinyu establish a mysterious and formidable image. Otherwise, Fushan might lower his head, but not today, not in front of everyone. This bow helped Chinyu establish his prestige within the Holy Netherguard. Behind layers upon layers of isolating array formations, Yuan Zhen revealed a complex expression. He sighed inwardly. He faintly guessed that Fushan's actions were to apologize for his previous attitude. He also knew that from this moment on, the future of the Holy Netherguard was no longer in their hands. They could only hope that the heavens would stop toying with them, and that the young commander in front of them could remove the shackles on their bodies. First Garrison General, Yuan Zhen, pays respects to the commander. His armor and scales collided with each other. His broad and sturdy body knelt on one knee and lowered his proud head. It was true that they had a grudge against the Holy Palace. 100,000 years. It had been a whole 100,000 years. How many brilliant ancestors have been trapped in the endless sea, unable to take even one step out? There were also countless juniors who were unable to personally see the great sun above their heads and breathe in the air of freedom. But in order to fight for the future of the Holy Netherguard, all of these grudges could be tossed aside. As long as the juniors could leave this sea, what harm was there in having them forget all of this? Second and third garrison generals pay their respects to the commander. Behind him, more and more holy nether guards fell to their knees as their armor plates collided. With a loud, rumbling sound, everything fell silent in the next moment. The air suddenly became solemn and heavy. At this moment, the only one standing between the heavens and earth was Chinyu. No, to be more precise, there was still half of it. Fu Shan just bowed. Chinyu lifted his hand, and the blue and purple light rapidly faded away. The shadows of the sun and moon vanished with it, and the scattered lines of rules gradually closed up, restoring everything to its original state. His expression was light. He swept his eyes over the excited Wang Chao, paused for a moment, and then nodded. Disregarding what Wang Chao was thinking, for him to be able to stand here with Fu Shan was already a success. This meant that you could trust him. The future would prove how generous Wang Chao's performance today would be. Get up. Yes, Commander. Fu Shan stood up straight. May I ask what happened exactly, Commander? Why did you enter the secret array? He had already carefully looked over Chinyu. Chinyu's complexion was fine, and he didn't seem injured at all. As he thought of that terrifying pill poison, he sighed with emotion. He had already believed in the words of Wang Chao and the other two. Since he had decided to rely on them, he naturally had to maintain a proper attitude. No matter who it was that betrayed him, he had to uncover them in exchange for Chinyu's forgiveness. Chinyu's expression was light. A few days ago, 2 holy nether guards came to my residence and said that you were looking for me in the mountain valley. Then, they brought me here. Fu Shan was enraged. How bold! Commander, rest assured that I will definitely investigate this thoroughly. I will definitely capture those 2 and hand them over to you to deal with. Chinyu shook his head. There is no need. His eyes turned. A person's appearance can be concealed and their cultivation can be faked. But the aura of their soul cannot be faked. I happen to have some methods that can distinguish between souls. The 2 holy nether guard from a few days ago are now here. His eyes stopped. The 2 holy nether guard captains lowered their heads, their bodies motionless. But sweat gushed out from their bodies, soaking through their armor. A cold chill drilled out from the depths of their hearts, spreading to their limbs and bones, as if they had fallen into an icy lake. Fu Shan followed their gazes, and the corners of his eyes jumped up. He took a deep breath and coldly said, You 2 come out. The 2 captains stepped forward. Subordinates Su Wei and Su Hu greet the commander and vice commander. Fu Shan was expressionless. Do you want to speak yourselves? Or do you want me to act and ask the holy nether guard to punish you? Su Wei and Su Hu trembled. They fell to their knees. We plead guilty and are willing to use our lives to atone for our crimes. The holy nether guard's punishment, that was even more terrifying than death. As for denying it, they didn't have any thoughts of doing so. Since Chinyu had locked onto them, as long as they carefully investigated, they would eventually be able to tear apart their seemingly safe arrangements. The 2 of them lifted their hands and struck the point between their eyebrows. Sometimes committing suicide was also a kind of blessing. However, before the 2 of them could strike anything, they were bounced back by an invisible strength. Fu Shan revealed a look of unwillingness. Then his eyes turned cold. Men, see Su Wei and Su Hu and throw them in a prison for the Lord Commander to deal with. If he didn't allow the 2 of them to commit suicide, that meant he would personally take action to vent his anger. Although he didn't have the heart to do so, he had no other choice. Chinyu lifted a hand. Hold on. I want to know why you plotted to kill me. He paused for a moment. If you speak, perhaps I can give you a lighter sentence. Su Wei bitterly said, We don't know who is behind the scenes. By giving them a lighter sentence, did that mean they would die a quick death? If Chinyu didn't allow the 2 of them to die now, they wouldn't dare to commit suicide. Otherwise, they would vent their anger on their family, and that was what they feared the most. Unfortunately, they really didn't know anything. They were nothing more than chess pieces in someone else's hands. But who was willing to be a chess piece? There was nothing they could do. Chinyu shook his head. I don't want to know who ordered you to harm me. This was because there was no need for evidence. Whoever obtained the greatest benefits would be the one who did it. He already had a goal in mind. You only need to tell me why you agreed to help. Su Wei clenched his teeth. To save my mother. Fu Shan clearly trembled. Qin Yu maintained his composure. Be more specific. Su Hu loudly said, my mother is seriously ill and can only be treated with pills from the outside world. They promised to give us pills, so we decided to harm her. Since we've been caught, we could do whatever we want. Lord Commander, please don't play with us anymore. The atmosphere clearly changed. The originally shocked and silent gazes were replaced with pain, and deep resentment. There had to be a story behind this. Qin Yu looked at Fu Shan. He sighed and explained, it hasn't been long since I entered the Endless Sea, so I don't know some of the secrets of Holy Nether City. The Holy Nether Guard is forever trapped here, unable to leave without orders. For 100,000 years, we have lived in the deep sea. Although Holy Nether City allows us to live here, it is still different from the outside world. I don't know why, but there's a chance that the Holy Nether Guard and their loved ones will experience severe symptoms of collapse. Once this happens, unless they obtain a pill from the outside world called hyacinthus grass, they will become bedridden and eventually die of weakness. Speaking to here, Fu Shan's tone was especially heavy. For the last 10,000 years, more and more symptoms of collapse have appeared. If we don't count it, there have been at least 400,000 deaths from this disease. Qin Yu knew of hyacinthus grass. This was a common spirit plant that wasn't rare in the outside world. It was worth several thousand spirit stones, but compared to a human life, wasn't worth mentioning at all. But this common spirit plant had actually caused the Holy Nether Guard to pay with 400,000 lives. If someone said there wasn't a reason for this, he wouldn't believe them. No wonder the Holy Nether Guard held such a great grudge against the Holy Land. Qin Yu even felt admiration for Fu Shan and the others. When they first met, they had actually been able to restrain themselves from attacking him. Things were clear like this. Some people had used hyacinthus grass to refine pills as a reward to tempt Su Wei and Su Hu, who were eager to save their mother. The scene became even quieter. One could clearly hear the heavy breathing of the crowd. Many Holy Nether Guards had red eyes. It seemed that their loved ones and friends had died because of this. Suddenly, chaos erupted from the crowd. A woman's sorrowful and fearful voice echoed out from afar. Big Brother Fu, please forgive these two children. They did this to save me. After a brief moment of hesitation, the Holy Nether Guard drew back like a tide. A woman staggered forwards. Her hair was white and her face was covered with wrinkles left over from torture. Su Wei's eyes instantly turned red. Mother, why are you here? He squeezed out a smile. We are fine. Mother, don't worry. Hurry and go back. The woman threw herself at the two brothers and patted their backs. You two unfilial sons. How could you do such a thing? After mother dies, I can reunite with your father. There is no need for you to pay with your lives. She turned around, her eyes filled with pleading. Big Brother Fu, look at my two sons. They lost their father when they were young. Please forgive them. I guarantee that there will never be a next time. Fu Shan hurriedly reached out a hand to help her up. Sister-in-law, hurry and stand up. The woman desperately shook her head. Big Brother Fu, if you want to enforce the law impartially, then I have no complaints. Just let us three die together. Fu Shan forced a smile. But he wasn't in any position to interfere in this matter. Otherwise, what would Yao Bin think? There was another commotion. Several figures rushed forwards. The young man in the lead had a cold and callous expression. He cupped his hands together and said, Vice Commander, Lord Generals, please spare Su Wei and Su Hu. Hai Lan Lan stood at the side. Her face was flushed red from nervousness, but it actually diluted the cold aura around her. She bowed and said, Big Brother Su Wei and Su Hu were anxious to save their mother. Moreover, they didn't cause any irreparable damage. I asked that all the uncles show mercy. The others also began to plead for leniency. News of Qin Yu's White Sun Boundary Demon Body talent was still locked up in the highest levels of the Holy Nether Guard. These juniors naturally didn't know of this, so they didn't know whether Su Wei and Su Hu lived or died. In their opinion, the reason they were searching for Qin Yu with such great fanfare was because he still had the reputation of a commander. If he died, the Holy Palace would inevitably punish him. In truth, he didn't have any control over the Holy Netherguard at all. As long as Fu Shan and the others protected him, Su Wei and Su Hu would be able to keep their lives. Fu Shan's complexion paled. He shouted out loud, "Shut up! This involves plotting to murder a commander. This is an unpardonable crime. All of you step back. If you dare to speak nonsense again, you will be severely punished." He cupped his hands together and said, "I ask Lord Commander to deal with us." Shua, Hai Lan Lan, Liang Shuyi, and the others were stunned. They looked at Qin Yu, a bit of confusion in their hearts. They didn't understand why Lord Fu Shan wanted him to make the decision. Would this person spare Su Wei and Su Hu? The chances of that happening were slim. Hai Lanlan's eyes became even colder. Her eyes were like two sharp ice blades that pierced into the deepest depths of her heart. She seemed to be viewed with hatred. Qin Yu helplessly smiled. Did he say he wanted to kill these two people? He looked at Hai Lan Lan and paused for several breaths of time. Then he calmly said, "Since you have satisfied my curiosity, then I will abide by my promise and give you a lighter punishment. Let this matter end here." Time seemed to come to a standstill at this moment. Countless people's eyes widened. This was because the shock in their hearts was completely different from the indifference on their faces, causing their expressions to become particularly strange. Hai Lanlan's eyes flashed with astonishment. She never thought she would hear such words from his mouth. Looking at Qin Yu's calm eyes, she blushed and looked away. Luckily, at this moment, everyone's minds were shaken. No one noticed the rare embarrassment on the Ice Beauty's face. Of course, Qin Yu was an exception. This was the first time he had sensed Hai Lanlan's mood fluctuations. The corners of his lips curved up in a smile. What could he obtain by killing Su Wei and Su Hu? Was it to vent some of his anger? The key point was that from start to finish, he had done everything of his own free will. Moreover, if he could obtain the demon body tempering pill's waste pill, in a way, he had to thank the two of them. If so, then why not spare them? They wouldn't pose a threat to him, and he could also obtain the greatest amount of goodwill from the Holy Netherguard. The woman was overjoyed. She pulled her two sons over and kowtowed again and again. "Thank you, Commander. Thank you, Commander." Fu Shan's eyes flashed with relief and also a bit of hesitation. But after several breaths of time, his eyes flashed with determination. Su Wei and Su Hu were the sons of Fu Shan's sworn brother, and I have always regarded them as my nephews. Today, Fu Shan is deeply grateful that Commander has magnanimously forgiven them. "My lord, please accept a bow from me." He bowed and knelt down on one knee. From this moment on, the Holy Netherguard ships were all placed on Qin Yu. Chapter 538. Qin Yu refused Fu Shan's invitation to stay in the new mansion. He didn't even allow them to clean up the ruins of the mansion. As these people were feeling apprehensive, he dove into the training room. The waste pills had been purified, and now was the time for him to show off his skills. He didn't have the time to waste on such trivial matters. Besides the many solemn Holy Netherguards standing guard around the ruined mansion, nothing seemed to have changed. But changes had already occurred. For instance, Wang Chao, Hua Yanting, and Yellow Mountain. The invisible little guard that no one cared about had suddenly transformed into the captain of the commander's personal guard. He was in high spirits, and his entire body exuded a happy aura. He was like a completely different person from before. An accident had already occurred once. Although Fu Shan and the others had ordered that no one was to leak any information about the current situation of the commander, it was hard to guarantee that there wouldn't be any loopholes. Thus, the ruins of the mansion became the most heavily guarded area in Holy Nether City. Without permission, not even a fly could fly in. In this tight protection, Qin Yu sat down cross-legged. He took out the 9th province furnace from his storage ring and patted it. His voice was sincere as he said, "Old friend, let's discuss this." The demon body tempering pill was far too important to Qin Yu. It was related to the important matter of advancing to the saint level. If he didn't communicate with 9th province ahead of time, then with the nature of the 9th province furnace, a massive amount of his rations would be deducted. If the lid fell once, it meant no. If it fell twice, it meant more. If it fell 3 times, it meant agreement. After a long period of haggling, the two sides finally reached an agreement. Chinyu let out a long breath. He clenched his teeth and decided to endure it. This bastard seemed to know how much he valued these pills. He opened his mouth, so wide it seemed as if he could swallow a mountain. Humph! Let's just wait and see. There will come a time when you fall into the hands of this young master. After paying a sufficient deposit, various pills and materials, Chinyu finally began to refine the pill. As for the pill recipe for the demon body tempering pill, that was a small gift that Sun Zifu had given him when he fulfilled his promise and apologized. After all, the demon body tempering pill was extremely precious. If he could find the materials to refine it, he would naturally strive to obtain them. The Sun family was truly worthy of being called a wealthy family. Even though he knew that they were trying to curry favor with him, Chinyu still couldn't help but have a favorable impression of them. As for the demon body tempering pill's materials and qualities, Chinyu had already figured them out. After going through them in his mind and making sure there wasn't anything wrong, he took out a complete set of materials. 10 days later, the last batch of demon body tempering pills was completed. He lifted the lid of the furnace and placed the pills into a jade bottle, a look of satisfaction on his face. The demon body tempering pill was truly worthy of its status as a precious pill. It was indeed difficult to refine, but luckily, Chinyu's alchemy skills weren't bad, and he also had the treasure furnace to help him. In addition, the little blue lamp could repeatedly purify it. After deducting all the necessary and unnecessary losses, the final result was 637 pills. It was less than he had expected, mainly because he was not familiar with it at the beginning, so the success rate was lower. The next time he opened the furnace, the pill production rate should be able to reach the expected level. He closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. Once he was back to his peak state, he took out a jade bottle and poured out 10 demon body tempering pills. These pills had turned a light blue color, and their surfaces were glowing with a precious light, as if they were made of some kind of blue jade. It was clear that after being purified by the little blue lamp, these demon body tempering pills had undergone a qualitative improvement. Chinyu's eyes lit up with anticipation, but he didn't act impulsively. After thinking for a moment, he took back 3 and swallowed the remaining 7 demon body tempering pills. With his emperor-level demon body, it was more than enough for him to withstand the medicinal efficacy. If he refined them one by one, it would simply be a waste of time. An hour later, Chinyu opened his eyes, a gratified smile on his face. Indeed, the little blue lamp was his greatest reliance. After being purified and strengthened, the effects of the demon body tempering pills had increased by several times. He could clearly feel that his mortal body was much stronger than before. Although it was limited when placed on the foundation of an emperor-level demon body, this degree of improvement could be called astonishing. However, swallowing 7 pills at once was a bit of a waste of medicinal efficacy. Moreover, refining them would be slow and would require more time. After experimenting several times, Chinyu decided to swallow 5 pills. Then, he repeated the process again and again. Eating the pills, refining the pills, eating the pills, refining the pills, but Chinyu didn't think this was boring at all. If it weren't for the fact that he had used up all of the demon body tempering pills, he would have stayed in this training room forever. What nonsense! This sort of extremely comfortable feeling of growing stronger with every passing moment was something that all cultivators yearn for even in their dreams. Did you think it was boring? Even if you felt the slightest bit impatient, you would absolutely be taught a lesson if you walked down the street. Without the demon body tempering pills, your cultivation would be forced to stop. This was probably the same as when you were having fun in bed and then an accident happened and the one below was called away. Cough, cough, this analogy wasn't too appropriate, but it was roughly what it was. Thus, when Chinyu left the training room, his complexion was ugly, as if he were filled with hidden bitterness. Wang Chao shuddered, wondering if this was the after effect left behind by the pill poison. How did the Lord Commander end up like this? He hesitated again and again, but in the end he didn't dare to approach Xinyu. He bowed from afar and hurriedly left with his people. Luckily, Xinyu soon recovered. At the very least, he appeared calm on the surface. He stood in the spacious garden, his eyes closed as if he were resting. He completely released his mind, feeling the fluctuations of the world's rules. Sometimes they were gentle, sometimes they were cruel and terrifying, constantly changing, making it difficult to grasp. This was the path of water, soft yet hard. Without the demon body-tempering pills, he had to continue cultivating. Unfortunately, the path of water was unpredictable, and he still hadn't been able to peek into it. But today, not long after Qinyu's mind settled down, he suddenly frowned and opened his eyes. "What is it?" His tone was a bit ill. He didn't know why, but Wang Chao felt a great deal of fear towards Qinyu. He always felt that this Lord Commander's aura was becoming increasingly strong, making him feel pressured. At this time, his body shook. He hurriedly said, "Commander, there's a young lady outside. She says she wants to see you." As if afraid that Qinyu wouldn't understand, he added, "She is the young lady that appeared to plead for mercy for Su Wei and Su Hu." Qinyu's eyes flashed. Why had she come here? His eyes fell on the clean stone tablet, not too far away, and his eyebrows relaxed. "Invite her in." Wang Chao was overjoyed. Luckily, he had been quick-witted. Otherwise, if he refused to send a message today, he would have definitely offended someone. As a newly promoted squad captain, although his rank seemed low, the truth was that he had a very high status. The three great generals also welcomed him with smiles. Within the Holy Nether Guard, there weren't many people that Wang Chao needed to fear. But when it came to matters like pillow talk, anyone who had experienced the matters between men and women knew just how terrifying it was. "What? You said that the woman outside had nothing to do with the commander? I'll spit on your face. If she didn't have anything to do with him, why would such a beauty that could bring calamity to a nation come looking for him?" Old Wang. Moreover, the Lord Commander was obsessed with cultivation and didn't even give face to Fu Shan and the others. So why would he take the time to see a stranger? Qinyu watched Wang Chao's departing back. He never imagined that beneath the mighty and extraordinary Holy Nether Guard armor that exuded such a wretched heart would be hidden. After bringing the woman to the entrance of the garden, Wang Chao considerately stopped. "Miss, the Lord Commander is in the garden. This subordinate has duties to carry out, so I won't send you in." The deeper meaning behind his words was, "I, Old Wang, am going to stand guard for you, so don't be afraid. If you want to do something, then do it boldly, and no one will disturb you." Hai Lan Lan bowed and thanked him. She felt that this personal guard captain was someone who didn't put on airs. He wasn't someone who would become arrogant because of his success. But if she knew about the dirty thoughts in Wang Chao's heart right now, she would definitely slap him across the face. She stepped into the garden and soon found Qinyu's back. He didn't pretend to have his back to the entrance, but was looking straight at her. Their gazes met. Hai Lanlan's expression was very calm. Her eyes were filled with a bit of alienation, but they were filled with calmness and serenity. This was the temperament she should have. Indeed, when he saw her reveal her emotions that day, it was an extremely rare sight. Qinyu restrained the messy thoughts in his mind. He smiled and said, "Miss, what business do you have with me?" "Hai Lan Lan." She spoke in a soft voice. Her voice was pleasant to the ears, like tiny waves crashing into a reef. It was gentle, but it also contained a strength that no one dared to underestimate. Qinyu was startled. This was because at this moment, from Hai Lanlan's voice, he could feel a hint of the Tao of water. He had been searching for this feeling for a long time, but he hadn't been able to comprehend it. So, what appeared in front of Hai Lan Lan was the newly promoted Lord Commander. After hearing her speak, he froze in a daze. This wasn't the first time Hai Lan Lan had encountered this sort of situation. Thus, she calmly coughed and reminded him so that he wouldn't lose face. But unexpectedly, he didn't seem to hear her at all. He continued to look straight ahead. After a long period of deadlock, a faint blush appeared on Hai Lanlan's indifferent face. Perhaps there was a bit of shyness, but more of it was annoyance. Just as she couldn't bear it any longer, Chinyu let out a long breath. His eyes brightened once more. "My apologies, I was rude." His face lit up with joy. The gate to the Tao of Water had actually been opened like this. This was truly a pleasant surprise. Hai Lamlin's expression became even colder. "Commander, please remember my name." She glanced at the stone tablet, not too far away, and revealed a well-hidden sadness. Then she turned and walked away. The truth was that before coming here, she had prepared some words to say. But Chinyu's performance caused her to choose to remain silent. Chinyu revealed a helpless expression. He realized that he had unintentionally offended this beauty just now and caused her to doubt his character. With his current temperament, he didn't care too much about these things. But as he thought about how he still owed her a favor just now, he loudly said, "Miss Hai, rest assured that I will take good care of this stone tablet." Hai Lamlin's footsteps paused for a moment before she left without looking back. They had met twice, and they had exchanged 2 sentences and a single name. What a girl with character. Chinyu smiled. He stepped in front of the stone tablet and swept his eyes over it. He soon found a name in the middle, Hai Yunsheng. Who was she to him? Moreover, it had been so long. If she really cared about the stone tablet, then no one in the ruined courtyard would care about this. As for whether or not this girl was doing this on purpose to find a chance to approach him, well, to tell the truth, Chinyu did think about it, but he immediately suppressed it. Although he hadn't interacted much with her, this girl was absolutely a proud person. She would never do something like this. Chinyu had no reason to believe this. Looking at this ordinary-looking stone tablet, he couldn't help but feel a bit of curiosity. Wang Chao scratched his head. He stared at Hai Lamlin's departing back, his mind filled with a single thought. The Lord Commander seems full of energy, but how could she be so fast? If I find some tonics and quietly offer them up, will I obtain the Lord Commander's praise? Perhaps the greater possibility is that she was killed by the Lord Commander to silence her. As his thoughts raced, he heard the sound of footsteps and saw Chinyu walking in front of him. Wang Chao cried out in alarm and nearly fell to the ground. "What are you thinking about? Why are you so lost in thought?" How could Wang Chao dare to say anything? He stammered and tried to dodge the question. Luckily, Chinyu had only casually asked and let him off the hook. He said, "Go and investigate the stone tablet in the courtyard as well as the name Hai Yunsheng." This subordinate obeys. Wang Chao hurried away with the joy of surviving a calamity. With the status of squad captain and the Lord Commander's trusted aide, it wasn't difficult for him to investigate a secret matter that had happened many years ago. Soon, Chinyu obtained a recording jade slip. Inside were detailed records of Hai Yunsheng and the stone tablet. The general idea was as follows. 20 years ago, there was a small rebellion within the Holy Netherguard. Dozens of Holy Netherguards tried to secretly leave the Endless Sea and finally died in the encirclement. These Holy Netherguards all had a common point. Their families all had relatives that were suffering from exhaustion. The investigation proved that the reason they rebelled was to obtain the wind letter grass. Hai Yunsheng was one of them. Chinyu laid down the jade slip and gently sighed. As he thought back to Hai Lamlin's icy cold eyes, it was only now that he realized the bitterness and resentment in them. It was no wonder that even with her cold and distant temperament, she had still stood out to plead for Su Wei and Su Hu. It was likely that she felt the same way. It was probably because of her that Liang Shou, Yi, and the others had stood up together. Wang Chao had investigated Hai Yunsheng in detail. There were many records of him. For instance, he fought to the death like a crazed demon, and in the end he blew himself up so that not even his bones remained. Perhaps in Hai Lamlin's heart, this stone tablet that recorded the events of the rebellion and served as a warning to future generations was the only hope she had for her father. As for why she didn't take the stone tablet away, Hai Yunsheng had been involved in the rebellion and had died in the encirclement. For her to have such a transcendent status amongst the youths today, her wisdom and temperament weren't bad. She certainly wouldn't do something that would embarrass everyone. Chinyu suddenly thought back to when he first arrived at Holy Nether City. Hai Lamlin would come every day. Originally, he had been a bit delighted. Although he didn't have any other thoughts, if a woman of this level were to pay attention to him, he would instinctively feel a bit proud of himself. But now, it seemed that this girl was afraid that the stone tablet with her father's name engraved on it would be destroyed by him. What a painful realization. Qin Yu rubbed his nose, secretly rejoicing that there was no one around. Otherwise, his awkward expression would have been incomparably stiff. Wang Chao, take away the stone tablet that I cleared out from the courtyard and place it properly. Do not damage it in the slightest. Yes. Wang Chao turned around, the solemn expression on his face immediately disappearing. It was replaced with an excited expression that said, I'm so smart. This little girl, Hai Lan Lan, really does have a deep relationship with our commander. This is a hidden main storyline. As long as he can make friends with her, his future status will be as stable as Mount Tai. The stone tablet had to be placed properly, and it had to be in a very, very good place. It would be best if Hai Lan Lan accidentally discovered it at some point and learned of everything the Lord Commander had done for her. Wouldn't that little girl be moved to tears? At that time, the commander would definitely see that old Wang, who had quietly done all of this, would still be able to reach the peak of his life. Chapter 539. Undying had finally refined the power of 9 suns. Qin Yu didn't conceal his impatience. He announced that he would be going into seclusion and quietly left the training room, using Shadow Step. When he stood outside the area where the pill was buried, he didn't need to be reminded. The purple moon and blue sun both sent down their projections. Presumably, absorbing the power of the 9 suns during this period of time had been beneficial to them. Undying's smiling smile retracted the sun and moon projections. In the next moment, a purplish-green halo of light erupted. Although the commotion today was much smaller than before, its effects were not reduced. As it spread out, the restraining and sealing law lines were dyed. Like a blooming flower petal, they parted to reveal a path. He smoothly entered without alerting anyone. With a loud rumble, the roars of the yin-yang fishes entered his ears. Although it made one feel a bit impatient, Qin Yu still had a bright smile on his face. After tasting the benefits of the demon body tempering pill, he couldn't help but have a favorable impression of this place. He also wanted to thank those people who had used countless methods to send him here, but now they were unknown, suppressing these random thoughts. Qin Yu waved his hand in high spirits. Undying, let's begin. Yes, little master. Like a phantom, indestructible drilled into the yin-yang fish. Waste pills rained down like rain, and, at the same time, the density of pill toxins in the array formation space rapidly soared. Qin Yu closed his eyes and comfortably sighed. All the pores on his body opened, allowing these terrifying pill toxins to crazily drill into his body. The surface of his right index finger glowed with a faint light. A layer of fine runes appeared on the surface of his skin, giving off a cheerful and lively feeling. Not only was the pill useless, but the pill poison was also good stuff. The yin-yang fishes maintain a balance. As the massive amount of waste pills fell down, the power of the 9 suns overflowed. As usual, Mei Mei, who didn't care about the rules, tore off a piece first, followed by Purple Moon and Blue Sunday. Undying smiled as he received the last piece. The purplish-green halo dispersed once more, and he returned to his residence. After leaving the area where the pill was buried, Qin Yu fused into the phantom and reappeared in the training room. Since Xiao Chan had announced that he was going into closed-door cultivation, there was no reason for him to give up halfway. He took out the 9-continent cauldron and spent quite a bit of effort before finally dealing with this fellow. Qin Yu rubbed his eyebrows. He had to find a way to deal with 9th Province's furnace as soon as possible. Otherwise, even if he was rich, he still wouldn't be able to withstand being stabbed left and right. The dark world within the shadows. Undying sat on his throne, his eyebrows furrowed together as if he were thinking about something. In this empty and deathly silent world, time seemed to have lost all meaning. Unlike his usual image in front of Qin Yu, the silent Undying was like a king of destruction, dignified and filled with killing intent that left one's heart shaking. Suddenly, Undying stood up. With a flick of his sleeves, the darkness tumbled away, revealing stone steps that led underground. On the altar formed from the power of darkness, little Ling's face grew paler and paler. Her long eyelashes trembled as if she had expended a great deal of effort to open them. Her eyes were still beautiful, calm, gentle, and persevering, but there was an unconcealable weakness and fatigue. "What are you doing here again?" Undying remained silent, as if he were looking at Spirity. She was shackled even tighter on the altar, making her beautiful body even more alluring. But Spirity's expression was indifferent, without the least bit of awkwardness. After a long time, Undying sighed. "I want to know, is it you who has a keen eye for talent? Or was it luck?" Spirity's eyes flashed. "It seems that Qin Yu's performance during this time has been very good." "Very good?" Undying thought for a moment, and then shook his head. "To be more precise, it is very, very good. It even far surpasses my expectations. He is now a member of the demonic path, and it won't be long before he inherits the throne of the Demon Palace's demon monarch." He shook his head, sighing with emotion. "Even in our glorious years, the demon monarch was a peerless powerhouse that supported the heavens. I never imagined that Qin Yu's growth would reach such a degree." Spirity's pale face revealed a smile. At this moment, it was like flowers blooming in spring. A soul-stirring aura began to surge in the air. Her eyes were dazed for a moment, as if she could see the calm and persistent expression on that young man's face from a long, long time ago. Perhaps from that time, she had already determined that this ordinary-looking young man would have an incomparably bright future. She hadn't misjudged him. Undying pressed a hand against his chest. Then, a pure white light scattered outwards, dispersing the yin chill in the air and filling one with a warm feeling. Spirity frowned. "What do you mean?" Undying smiled. "It's very simple. I discovered that Qin Yu might be able to go further than I imagined and have even greater achievements. And everything you give up now, you will be compensated 10 times or even 100 times over in the future. So, I am prepared to flatter you and curry favor with you. This pure yang strength is my sincerity." Spirity was extremely weak. She had blocked the senses from the demonic altar and was constantly consuming her source. This pure yang strength would be of great help to her. But she didn't reveal any urgency. Instead, her expression became even more indifferent. It seemed that they had chosen to suppress this matter. After a few more years passed, they could find a random excuse and report the news of Yao Bin's death. Then, the Mu family's suspicions in this matter would be thoroughly washed away. The Holy Nether Guard would be spared from punishment, and the chess pieces that had acted would be safe. The Mu family wouldn't have to withstand pressure from all sides. This result couldn't be any more wonderful. Mu Xianglin casually tore apart the 4 messages and chuckled, satisfied with his plan. His excitement erupted once more, making it seem as if his entire body had been set on fire. "Come, select 10. No, 20 maids from the mansion and bring them to my room." Following that, several days of revelry followed. The Mu family's greatest calamity had died, and their future prospects were bright once more. This sort of heavenly news was naturally worth celebrating. There was nothing wrong with it. But in the end, old Master Mu's revelry had been ruined. As the descendants of the Holy Monarch, the Mu family had always placed great importance on their traditions. Even though Mu Xianglin was one of the main decision-makers of the Mu family, it wasn't good for him to openly disobey them. Thus, the place where he sought pleasure today was an outer residence. The troublemaking boy was quite strong. He had managed to overcome all obstacles and had even forced Mu Xianglin to crawl out of his gentle embrace. As he listened to the curses coming from outside, his complexion paled. It seemed that the woman he had ravaged just now was very close to this boy. "It's not good for me to show myself in this matter. Let's teach him a lesson." Mu Xianglin turned and left. A cold cultivator walked out from the shadows beside him. His eyes were a dull gray, and it was so cold that it caused one's heart to tremble. This chaos finally ended with the troublemaking boy being thrown out of the mansion. Several Mu family cultivators who had been punched and kicked ruthlessly kicked him a few times before turning to leave while cursing. This boy was lucky. The clan had requested them to keep a low profile during this period of time. Otherwise, they would have killed him long ago and thrown him into a cage to feed the dogs. In an instant, torrential rain poured down. Several robust figures tore through the curtain of rain and rushed over. They roared impulsively, wanting to take revenge, but they were tightly grabbed by the people on the ground. "Don't go. You guys aren't a match for him." Shang Yuntai looked at the majestic mansion with its tightly shut gates. Rainwater rushed into his eyes and slid down his cheeks. He thought of the woman he had loved for so many years and had always regarded as a treasure. He didn't want to hurt her in the slightest. Yet, in this mansion in front of him, she had become someone else's plaything. The pain was like poisonous insects biting at his heart. Cough, cough. He violently coughed, blood gushing out from every orifice of his head. In the blink of an eye, it was washed away by the rain, leaving behind only a faint smell of blood. The poison in his body had become even more severe. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before he died. If so, then why go and ruin the choice she had made? Let her be. This wasn't because he was open-minded, but because there was no greater sorrow than a dead heart. Senior apprentice brother, that cheap woman dares to treat you like this. I will not let her go. I will not let her go. A young demonic path cultivator angrily roared. Shang Yuntai closed his eyes and shook his head. I won't allow you to cause any more trouble because of this. Otherwise, you will no longer be my brother. Do you all understand? In the torrential rain, his voice was weak. Several figures beside him, because of their anger and grievance, constantly shivered. Large tracts of white fog rose up from their bodies. We will listen to you, senior apprentice brother. They were well aware that the reason their senior apprentice brother Shang had such an unreasonable and decisive attitude was because the master of this mansion had a strength they couldn't match. Shang Yuntai let out a deep breath. Take me away. Help me apply to the elders. Shang Yuntai knows that he doesn't have long to live and hopes to enter the endless sea. Senior apprentice brother. Everyone cried out in sorrow. Let's do as I say. Although the endless sea was a forbidden land and the living didn't want to enter, if they could be buried there after they died, that would be a great honor. Senior apprentice brother, rest assured that we will definitely help you achieve your wish. Shang Yuntai nodded. Without saying anything else, he was supported into the heavy curtain of rain. Qin Yu restored his cultivation of the demon body. Of course, it was more accurate to say that he had restarted his great undertaking of swallowing pills. A massive number of demon body-tempering pills had been buried in his mouth. Their sacrifice was valuable. Qin Yu could clearly feel that as his mortal body absorbed the medicinal efficacy, the transformation of the emperor-level demon body began to accelerate. It wouldn't be too long before it was completed. This process shortened several years. Only after stabilizing the Emperor level would he be able to attack the Saint level with all his strength. Another month passed. This was the third time Qin Yu entered the pill burial area to collect the waste pills. He didn't know whether it was an illusion or not, but Undying's attitude was the same as before. But the two guests in his soul space had become rather silent. As for the blue sun in his Dantian Sea, it maintained its principle of not eating and remaining translucent. As he thought about Mimi and Purple Moon's genders, Qin Yu shook his head and didn't think too much about it. There would always be a few days a month when female life forms would be abnormal. It was best not to provoke them. As the demon body grew stronger, so did the forbidden bloodline in Qin Yu's body. The firmament demon head in the Demon Ascension Gate's small world had given Qin Yu a great deal of help. This was the first time he learned of the bloodline ability that Ning Ling had given him. It was like a window had been opened. After Qin Yu learned of the name of the forbidden blood, he was able to naturally control its strength. The bloodline was rooted in the mortal body and was closely linked to the physique. After Qin Yu broke into the Emperor-level demon body and also swallowed a massive number of demon body-tempering pills, the forbidden blood was like a long drought that had finally met rain. It began to grow with vigor. Perhaps the forbidden blood wouldn't be able to bring Qin Yu great strength in the short term. But as he thought of the firmament demon head and the demon ascension gate's small world, his heart was filled with anticipation. It was like a small tree rooted in fertile soil, growing strong and strong until it finally bloomed and bore fruit. As Qin Yu was bitterly cultivating, Wang Chao was also making his move. After a series of arrangements were completed, he began the most critical part of his plan, the heart-palpitating segment. In order to ensure that nothing went wrong, Wang Chao decided to personally take action. With his status as the captain of the personal guard, it was easy for him to suppress several ignorant youths. In truth, the plan was extremely simple. As long as he selected several people and inadvertently spoke a few words to Hai Lan Lan and passed on the information, everything would be completed. As for Wang Chao, he would brush his shoulders and leave, hiding his achievements and fame. All he needed to do was wait for the Lord Commander to summon him. As Wang Chao expected, when he put on his armor and revealed his identity, the several youths from the academy paled. Perhaps they had been like everyone else in the past, not caring about the new commander at all. But when Fu Shan had knelt to him, the situation had been completely changed. Wang Chao carefully spoke several times and then had them speak again. After correcting several parts, he nodded in satisfaction, thinking that these fellows were quite smart. All right, everything will proceed according to the plan. You may all leave. After the several youths left the carriage, Wang Chao's deep and low voice sounded out. Remember, regarding this matter, you are not allowed to reveal even half a word. The several youths trembled. They respectfully bowed and excused themselves. Wang Chao watched their departing backs and couldn't help but smack his lips. The tone of his words just now seemed a bit unnatural. He should have appeared more dignified, and he needed to practice more. After all, it wouldn't be long before he would be placed in an important position by the Lord Commander. If the Lord Commander were to ask, what position should he apply for? If it was a garrison general, wouldn't his mouth be too big? Moreover, Yuan Zhen and the others didn't seem easy to deal with. This really was a happy worry. The next day, in Holy Nether City Academy, a small accident occurred. Although no one dared to say anything, their eyes were filled with anger. The reason for this was that the flower of the academy, Hai Lan Lan, seemed to have been picked up by some influential figure and kept for himself. Wang Chao's failure lay in the fact that he had underestimated the momentary impulsiveness of the youths. Perhaps they would feel inexplicably terrified afterwards, but when their blood rushed to their heads, they would dare to do anything. Moreover, this was to protect the inviolable flower of the academy in their hearts. Hai Lan Lan frowned. Between her indifferent and distant eyes, there was a bit more disgust and coldness. But after hesitating over and over again, she decided to verify it. She saw the stone tablet that had been cleaned and placed in a pavilion. Although she felt disgusted by this person's intentions, as she saw that the stone tablet was being carefully cared for, a part of her heart clicked and her anger unconsciously decreased by half. After standing there for a long time, Hai Lan Lan gently sighed. No matter what his motives were, she would just pretend she didn't know. She turned and quietly left. What she didn't know was that as this scene fell into Liang Shuyi's eyes, he was already shocked and angry. When he saw Hai Lan Lan's reaction, his heart ached, and he could no longer suppress his anger. They had grown up together. Besides being close when they were young, the two of them had always maintained a distance over the years. Liang Shuyi was well aware that she was a woman with an indifferent personality, but was also extremely proud. This surname Yao's actions had absolutely touched her bottom line. Even if he had the status of a commander, Hai Lan Lan wouldn't calmly accept this. Unless her heart was also moved. As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, it immediately went blank. Liang Shuyi, who had always been filled with confidence that he would finally be able to capture this fairy-like girl, suddenly felt his eyes turn blood red. His entire body tumbled around him like raging waves. No, absolutely no. Liang Shui looked up at the ruined mansion, his eyes becoming increasingly red. Finally, With a roar like that of a trapped beast, he rushed out. The holy nether guard guarding the mansion was frightened. He seemed to recognize that Liang Shui didn't dare to attack, but after injuring several people, he had no choice but to do so. Without any surprise, Liang Shui was suppressed. No matter how tyrannical his strength was, those guarding the mansion were all elites of the Holy Nether Guard. They wouldn't give him any chances. The Holy Nether Guard captain bit his cheeks. He looked at his wounded brother and said, "Immediately report this to the vice commander." Forcefully breaking into the commander's station and wounding the guards, this matter was far too great and couldn't be suppressed. Qin Yu was forced to stop his cultivation. His complexion was frighteningly gloomy. As Fu Shan and the others saw this, their hearts skipped a beat. The third commander, Liang Taiyuan, fell to his knees, tears nearly flowing down his cheeks. "Commander, my unfilial son has lost his mind today. I ask that you show mercy." He didn't dare to not beg for mercy. Although Qin Yu had forgiven Su Wei and Su Hu, that was before he obtained the approval of the Holy Nether Guard. Now, he was a true commander. If he wasn't punished after being offended like this, wouldn't his prestige be swept to the ground? As he thought of this, a cold sweat began to pour down his back. "Yao Bin, don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you're a commander. If you dare to have the slightest malicious intent towards Lan Lan, I'll definitely kill you." Liang Shou roared fiercely. He seemed to be ruthless, as if he wouldn't let Lan Lan off even if he died. Hearing this, Liang Taiyuan's field of vision darkened, and he nearly fainted. "Little bastard, you are seeking your own death." Qin Yu was stunned. As he sensed the strange expressions of everyone around him, his complexion became increasingly ugly. Could someone tell him just what was going on here? At this time, Hai Lanlan hurried over. She glanced at the subdued Liang Shui, who was still struggling, and her eyes became increasingly cold. "I am indebted to Lord Commander's undeserved love, but Hai Lanlan cannot accept it. Today, Liang Shui has offended his superiors, and this is all because of me. If Lord Commander wishes to use thunderous methods to protect your authority, then please punish me as well." Wang Chao stared at the scene in front of him, dumbfounded. He roared out in his heart. He was wrong, he was wrong. "Hai Lanlan, just whose side are you on?" When he regained his composure, he happened to meet Qin Yu's icy cold eyes. He immediately quivered and his face turned green. "Wang Chao, can you explain what is going on here?" The storm ended with Wang Chao kowtowing and begging for mercy. After explaining the entire situation, Qin Yu generously waved his hand, indicating that he wouldn't pursue the matter any further. But what left him depressed was that these people were clearly looking at him with the word contempt written all over their faces. If you weren't interested in the girl, then the captain of your personal guard would do something superfluous and take the initiative to do such a thankless task. This was simply too fake. This was simply pushing all the blame onto Wang Chao and finding a scapegoat to use as a chance to escape. This way, it wouldn't be so awkward. Hai Lanlan's eyes filled with even more disdain. Qin Yu struggled for a long time before suppressing his thoughts of strangling Wang Chao to death. He flicked his sleeves and left. He could think whatever he wanted, but the more he tried to explain this matter, the worse it would get. When everyone dispersed, Wang Chao was helped up by Hua Yanting and Yellow Mountain. His face was pale, and he didn't feel good at all. He never imagined that the plan he had painstakingly arranged would end up like this. "Lord Commander, you've misunderstood me. If you can't handle the girl yourself, then, as a clever and sensible subordinate, I'll lend you a hand. Even if things don't work out, you shouldn't just tear down the bridge and sell me out, right?" Yellow Mountain's voice was heavy. "Big brother, just admit it. As a subordinate, it is my duty to take the blame for the Lord Commander." Hua Yanting comforted him. "Today, I helped the Lord Commander take the blame, so I'm sure there will be some comfort. Perhaps the Lord Commander will express his gratitude." The next day, Wang Chao was ordered to clean up the Holy Nether City's appearance. In simpler terms, he was appointed as a temporary captain of the sanitation department. He was given a small shovel and went to clear the roads. Chapter 540. In Holy Nether City, the Lord Commander's bumpy road of love had become a hot topic of discussion. Although there was a bit of disdain and ridicule, there wasn't much loathing. Instead, there was an inexplicable closeness to him. The reason for this was that their Lord Commander was just an ordinary person. He would lose face, he would embarrass himself, and he would even try to shirk responsibility to save face. Even the matter of him venting his anger on the dynasty and punishing him to clean up the streets was interpreted as a little cute. After all, if the Lord Commander really was a bad person, he had far too many other methods to deal with this matter in a peaceful manner. Moreover, he would leave people in awe of him and not dare to mention it again. Just as Qin Yu was accidentally obtaining a favorable impression from the residents of Holy Nether City, Shang Yuntai's application to enter the Endless Sea was finally approved. Several good brothers escorted him to the Endless Sea. Shang Yuntai pushed open the door and got off. He looked at the distant sea and took a deep breath. Brothers, today we will bid our farewells here. From now on, we will never meet again. I wish you all a bright future. Senior Apprentice Brother Shang. Everyone's eyes turned red. Their mouths moved, but no words of comfort came out. This was because they all knew that he didn't have much time left. Shang Yuntai chuckled. In my life, I have been humble and I have been glorious. I have lowered my head to allow others to humiliate me, and I have also been insufferably arrogant. But today, I have suffered a crushing defeat. Luckily, there are still many brothers who have never abandoned me. It can be said that I have gained something in life. He cupped his hands together and turned to leave. The sea breeze lifted his robes, causing them to flutter in the wind. He seemed a bit free and easy. Shang Yuntai boarded the wooden boat and sailed deep into the sea. He didn't look back again, but his previously calm and carefree face was now pale. But his back was still straight, like an ancient pine tree atop a mountain peak. Even if a thick layer of snow fell on him, it still couldn't make him bend over. In the end, he was still a proud person. Even though he had been tormented by poison these past years, he had never revealed any weakness in front of others. But the betrayal of the one he loved had completely shattered Shang Yuntai's remaining dignity. He couldn't welcome those pitiful and sympathetic eyes. Thus, Shang Yuntai chose to enter the Endless Sea. He looked down on this sort of escapist behavior the most, but he couldn't care about it now. No one in the Endless Sea knew him, so he should just quietly die here. The wooden ship plunged deep into the sea. Shang Yuntai was like a walking corpse. After completing the procedures, he didn't choose to join the Holy Nether Guard. Instead, he turned and left. He had imagined the situation of this forbidden land countless times. He originally thought it would be a scorched earth, but he never expected it to be so flourishing like a bright pearl at the bottom of the sea. Shang Yun's eyes swept across the bustling street. Amidst the surging flow of people, he suddenly stood still and let out a satisfied sigh. Let's just die here peacefully. He closed his eyes and relaxed his taut heartstrings. He no longer tried to resist the invasion of the poison. Shang Yuntai closed his eyes and fell to the ground. The crowd seemed to be startled, and with a boom, they scattered in all directions. Wang Chao half squatted in the shadows of the roadside and wiped the beads of sweat off his forehead. He looked at the long street that had been cleaned up and saw that it was a mess once again. He squeezed his eyes and wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Just as he was lamenting his fate and muttering to himself about how the commander had repaid kindness with enmity, he suddenly heard an uproar. It was as if a flock of birds were flying over his head. He stood up and looked at the long street. There were many layers of people surrounding him. Wang Chao suddenly thought that this might be his only chance. The Lord Commander was passionate about cultivation, and going into seclusion to cultivate was a common occurrence. If no one reminded him, who knew how long he would have to hold the temporary position of sanitation captain? It was impossible for his second and third brother to plead for leniency, and it wasn't appropriate to find someone else. Thus, Old Wang decided to save himself. "Excuse me." Wang Chao strode forwards. The crowd drew back like a tide. Thanks to Hai Lan Lan and Qin Yu's love affair being made known to everyone, Wang Chao also took this chance to leap up and become one of the most famous figures in Holy Nether City. Everyone knew that he was the unlucky guard captain. Wang Chao looked at the fallen Shang Yuntai and frowned. Does anyone know what happened? I'm not too sure. He was walking along just now when he suddenly fell over. That's right, he doesn't look too good. His aura is very weak. If he's injured, then he should be resting. Why did he run out? Wang Chao's eyes flashed. Does anyone recognize this person? Everyone shook their heads. Wang Chao was overjoyed, but he maintained a solemn expression. He lowered his head and thought for several breaths of time. Then he sighed and said, "It's fine. Saving a life is better than building a 7-floor pagoda. I can't just watch him die." He turned and ordered, "Continue cleaning the streets. I will bring this person back to the residence and see if I can save him." He picked up Shang Yuntai and strode away, attracting a great deal of admiring gazes. Squad Captain Wang Chao was indeed a good person. Even though he was being punished, he was still willing to help others. Hee, Lord Commander's luck is truly good. He was able to obtain such a hard-working and top-class subordinate. Wang Chao felt as if the person on his shoulder wasn't heavy at all. His entire body was filled with strength. "Lord Commander, did you hear that? This is the voice of the people. You won't be able to find a second subordinate as outstanding as me. If you don't wake up from your daze and train me, then when are you going to do so?" Wang Chao finally returned to the commander's residence and let out a long breath. Although everything he saw was still in ruins, he was excited to finally return to the center of power. Now, the crux of the problem was how to continue staying here. As for cleaning up the streets and whatnot, he had already made up his mind not to leave. Wang Chao hurriedly settled down. Under the banner of saving a patient, he invited a medical master from the Holy Nether Guard. Unfortunately, the results of the examination weren't good. The unconscious person had been poisoned by a very potent poison. "Captain Wang, this person's poison has seeped into his organs and into his marrow. I fear he doesn't have much time left. I'm truly ashamed, truly ashamed." Wang Chao thanked him and then ordered someone to escort him out. As he looked at the unconscious person on the bed, a complex expression appeared on his face. So this person was about to die. Wasn't it a bit too excessive to use a dying person as an excuse? But as he thought about it, since he was going to die anyway, he might as well help himself. At the very most, he would let this person live a bit more comfortably in his final moments. Wei Yanning looked up. "Big brother, I looked through this person's belongings and found his identity. His name is Shang Yuntai, and he just entered the Endless Sea today." Yellow Mountain happened to return at this time. As he heard these words, he frowned. "Shang Yuntai, this name seems a bit familiar." Hua Yanting lightly said, "You and I, the three of us, when we competed for a spot as a true demon guard in the past, we took the test together with this person. He was an extremely fierce character. But in that test, for some unknown reason, he was poisoned and then disappeared from everyone's sight. Afterwards, I asked around and found out that Shang Yuntai was once an influential figure. Unfortunately, he rose quickly and fell even faster." His voice was a bit rueful. "I never thought that when we meet again today, you would end up in such a state." Wang Chao shook his head. "Life and death. Haven't we seen enough of each other over the years? Shang Yuntai naturally has his reasons for ending up like this. Even if he dies, that is his destiny." Yellow Mountain scratched his head. "Big brother, if this person dies, you won't have an excuse to continue staying here." Wang Chao's expression stiffened. His image of a master who had seen through life and death instantly collapsed. His face paled and he clenched his teeth. "Since you know this, you should hurry up and think of a way to extend his life. At the very least, you have to last until the Lord Commander leaves seclusion. If he didn't see the commander, how could he cry and beg for mercy? Of course, he wouldn't tell anyone about this plan. Whoever found out would be silenced." When Shang Yuntai opened his eyes, he smelled the thick smell of medicinal dregs. His body was still weak, but the poison had calmed down. If nothing unexpected happened, he could live for a while. However, Shang Yuntai was clear that the next time the poison broke out, it would be the time of his death. After lying on the bed for a long time, Shang Yuntai struggled to get up. As he was drinking water, Wang Chao pushed the door open. Seeing him, he was happy. "You're awake? How do you feel?" Shang Yuntai cupped his hands. "Thank you for saving my life." He knew that he couldn't repay this favor in this life, so he paused after saying this and didn't continue. Fortunately, Wang Chao didn't care about this. Seeing him wake up, he was in a good mood. He smiled and said, "Your luck isn't bad. The endless sea is a barren place, but some corals on the seabed contain toxins that can restrain the poison in your body. Although it can't detoxify you, extending your life isn't difficult." However, Shan Yuntai didn't seem to be happy about this. He calmly nodded. Wang Chao was a little confused. However, thinking that the other's body was full of holes, he must have been suffering from the poison for many years. Whether it was good or bad for him to linger for a while wasn't clear. After a moment of silence, he smiled. "Shang Yuntai, in truth, you and I are old acquaintances. In the past, during the True Demon Guard selection, we once took the test together." Shang Yuntai was stunned. He never thought that after entering the endless sea, he would run into an acquaintance. Although he didn't have any impression of Wang Chao, he still instinctively felt close to him. In the end, this was someone who had struggled together with him many years ago. Unfortunately, that test to transform and rise had been the greatest setback of his life, and his destiny had sunk into the depths of the abyss. Shang Yuntai's face darkened. Then, he revealed a look of surprise and looked up. Wang Chao shrugged. His tone was relaxed. "As you can see, my luck wasn't too good. I was exiled to the endless sea several months ago." The two were silent at the same time. Their eyes were filled with emotion, and then they laughed together. A bitter tacit understanding was born in their hearts. After today, the ruined commander's mansion would have another guest. At first, Wang Chao had only hoped to use Shang Yuntai's matter to obtain a chance to beg for mercy from Qinyu. But as they interacted with each other, he never imagined that the two of them would get along so well. This should be what it meant to be a true friend. Everyone drank and chatted together, quickly becoming friends who had known each other for many years. Seeing Shang Yuntai's dispirited expression, as if he were indifferent to life and death, Wang Chao didn't say anything. Instead, he privately sought out Fu Shan and asked him to help him search for a divine doctor. The continuous visits to see him moved Shang Yuntai. Although he didn't think there was any hope, he couldn't bear to disappoint Wang Chao's good intentions. The results of the continuous consultations weren't good. The divine doctors all expressed that they couldn't remove the poison. As Wang Chao was disappointed, one of the divine doctors gave a tentative suggestion. Since the coral poison was effective, perhaps it could be used to fight poison with poison. The general idea was that since one was already on the brink of death, why not go all out? Perhaps this method would speed up one's death, but if it succeeded, there would be a chance of survival. However, this divine doctor had already stated that although this method had a chance of success, it would cause great harm to the patient. If they couldn't endure it, they would soon die. Wang Chao hesitated again and again before telling Shang Yuntai about this method. He was silent for a long time and then asked, "How confident are you?" He raised 3 fingers, but under the other party's gaze, he put away 2 more. 10%, his voice was hoarse. Shang Yuntai suddenly smiled. 10% confidence isn't small. I'm already someone who is about to die, so what is there to be dissatisfied about? In the past, he had been plotted against and poisoned, falling from a proud son of heaven to a penniless commoner. It was impossible to calculate how much humiliation he had suffered. There was also the poison that corroded his organs, making him feel as if 10,000 insects were biting him. If his will wasn't firm, he would have already committed suicide. Shang Yuntai persisted all the way. Although he hesitated, and even felt despair, he never truly gave up. He wasn't willing to submit to fate. If it weren't for the betrayal of the one he loved, perhaps he would have continued to persist with his pride. But this matter had defeated him and pushed him into the endless abyss. Entering the endless sea was the last bit of dignity he had left. He didn't want to withstand those sympathetic gazes and only wanted to quietly wait for death to arrive. But life was unpredictable like this. Just as Shang Yuntai was about to give up, he was given hope to continue living. And more importantly, Shang Yuntai already knew that Wang Chao was the personal guard of the new commander. And the new commander was the White Sun boundary martial artist who had shaken the entire demonic path. This meant that as long as he struggled to live, it wouldn't be long before he returned to the demonic path. The assassination during the true demon guard quota test in the past, the humiliation he had suffered these past years, and even the woman who stabbed him in the heart. Could Shang Yuntai really remain indifferent to all of this? He couldn't. He was just powerless to change and resist. So he had no choice but to silently endure it. But now, a chance had appeared in front of him. Although the chances were slim, was there anything he could lose? Rather than waiting for death to arrive, he might as well go crazy one last time and undergo a nirvanic rebirth in pain. Or perhaps he could walk towards death. Shang Yuntai began to eat massive amounts of poisonous coral. This sort of light blue speckled thing wasn't beautiful at all, and its taste was unbearable. But Shang Yuntai ate it calmly. He used a wooden spoon to swallow the smashed coral paste, his face incomparably calm. The coral poison was quickly absorbed. Before he even finished eating, the two poisons would begin to slaughter each other in Shang Yuntai's ruined body. His complexion soon paled. Even though he had exhausted all of his strength, his hand that held the wooden spoon constantly trembled. By the time he finished eating, his clothes were soaked in sweat. Wang Chao had privately asked the doctor and learned of the degree of pain he was suffering. He found it difficult to suppress the unbearable look in his eyes. But Shang Yuntai only smiled at him. "Brother Wang, there's no need to be like this. I am struggling to survive in a hopeless situation of death. This is something I must experience. If I could be reborn in the end, then even if this pain is 10 times or 100 times more intense, so what?" When the two poisons in his body reached an initial equilibrium and the pain in his body began to subside, Shang Yuntai stood up and began to run around the City Lord mansion. His cultivation had nearly been frozen by the poison. He could only use this primitive method to move his blood energy and accelerate the poison metabolism. Wang Chao couldn't bear to watch his good friend suffer unimaginable pain every day. After helping him eat the coral, he would leave. Recently, he had been searching for some painkiller that wouldn't conflict with the poison. But because Shang Yuntai had used countless medicines these past years, his body had already developed antibodies, so his progress hadn't been smooth. Who? He gasped for breath in great gulps. Every time he did, it was like countless sharp knives were cutting through his chest. The pain of flesh and blood was so sharp that he couldn't breathe. Cold sweat slid down his pale face, dripped from his chin, and fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. Shang Yuntai struggled to stand where he was, not letting himself fall down. This was because he feared that if he fell down now, he wouldn't have a chance to stand up again. Large black spots constantly appeared in front of him and faded away. Qin Yu stood in his quiet courtyard, a bit of surprise in his eyes. He still remembered this demonic path cultivator he had seen when he first entered Heavenly Demon City. Although his aura wasn't right at the time, he still had a cold and stern aura about him. Seeing him again today, he could tell that his situation was far from good. Even though he was far away, Qin Yu could still feel how weak and powerless he was. He looked at his swaying body, as if he could be blown away by a gust of wind. Thinking for a moment, Qin Yu stepped forwards. He didn't hide the sound of his footsteps, but the tottering Shang Yuntai was struggling with a weakness in his body. He simply didn't notice him approaching. "I cannot fall. I cannot fall. I have to live. I have to live." A low and deep voice entered Qin Yu's ears, causing him to freeze in place. As he looked at the struggling Shang Yuntai, his thoughts flew far away, returning to a long, long time ago, a memory that he didn't want to think about. Because a wild boar had broken into his medicine garden and destroyed his precious spiritual plants, he had suffered a vicious beating. Although he had barely managed to keep his life, a fatal illness had been left behind. At every moment, he could clearly feel his condition deteriorating. It was like a viper twisting around his body in the darkness, incomparably cold and gloomy, causing one to feel fear and despair. In the past, after he finished his work every day, he would eat as much as he could and then run around desperately to dredge up his blood energy. Even then, he seemed to be in such a distressed state right now. Qin Yu and Shang Yuntai had only met once, and the two of them hadn't even spoken a single word. Shang Yuntai wasn't a good person who overflowed with compassion, so it was likely that he wouldn't interfere in his destiny. This was because he had already subdued Wang Chao and the others and obtained the approval of the Holy Nether Guard. He already had a team and didn't need any more helpers. But at this time, the scene in front of him stirred up some sort of emotion deep in Qin Yu's heart. It made him think of himself, making him feel as if he were in the same boat. If it weren't for the little blue lamp, then on that night many years ago he would have died in that valley. Perhaps he would have been hurriedly buried by others and become a pile of bones that no one cared about. Then, why didn't he become another little blue lamp and illuminate the despairing lives of others? Qin Yu's thoughts raced. Shang Yuntai, who was struggling with the weakness and pain in his body, would never have imagined that from this moment on, his destiny would take a new fork in the road and usher in a new future. Qin Yu let out a light breath. When his chaotic thoughts calmed down, he saw Shang Yuntai's departing back, but he didn't call out to him. After watching Shang Yuntai leave, Qin Yu turned and returned to his stone house. In this world, there was no such thing as obtaining something for no reason. In the past, when he obtained the little blue lamp, he had exhausted all of his strength and had experienced the tempering of a life or death situation. Qin Yu decided to set up a final test for him. He wanted to see whether or not this person had a strong enough will to live. If this person had already given up, then why bother trying to save him? On the second day, Shang Yuntai ran. On the third day, he ran. On the fourth day, the fifth day, all the way until the 23rd day, Shang Yuntai's figure didn't appear again. In a room filled with the smell of medicinal dregs, Wang Chao watched as Shang Yuntai struggled to lift his hand and shove the vomit-inducing mushy coral into his mouth. He finally couldn't suppress his surging emotions. "Old Shang, don't embarrass yourself anymore." Shang Yuntai paused for a moment. Then, he placed the wooden spoon into the bowl. Because he wasn't able to control his strength, there was a deep popping sound. He let out a deep breath and used a great deal of effort to look up. He smiled at Wang Chao and said, "I wanted to say this a long time ago. This coral tastes King disgusting. Old Wang, I'm really sorry, but I'll have to disappoint your good intentions. To walk towards life in a land of death, these words are easy to say. But only when I truly put my body through it will I realize that it is far, far too difficult. I want to continue, but in the end, his voice gradually trailed off and his aura became increasingly weak. Wang Chao's eyes were red. "Old Shang, don't fall asleep. My family's commander will soon leave seclusion. His cultivation might not be comparable to some great figures I've seen before, but he is one of the most formidable people in the world. You know Yellow Mountain. He looks like a simple and honest fellow, but he's a wretched fellow on the inside. Not too long ago, he was poisoned by a very potent poison. It was Lord Commander who saved him. He just reached out a hand, and before I could react, he pulled my third brother back from the gates of hell. I'm not bragging. I'm really not bragging. Old Shang, you have to believe me. Hurry up and open your eyes. If you fall asleep like this, will you really be willing?" These words seemed to stimulate Shang Yuntai. His eyes opened a slit, and there was a great fear in them that could only be felt when one was on the verge of death. I originally thought that I wasn't afraid of death, but now it seems that I overestimated myself. Old Wang, I don't want to die. To not want to die, but to have no choice but to die, this might be the greatest and most helpless sorrow in the world. Wang Chao's eyes were red and tears flowed down his cheeks. As he said, he had seen many life and death situations, but it was only today that he truly felt just how hopeless a person's heart was when death approached. The door was suddenly pushed open. Qin Yu stepped in as old Wang's stunned and teary eyes stared at him. His expression was calm and indifferent, and his eyes filled with an indescribable dignity. Many, many years later, Wang Chao would still remember Qin Yu's expression today. It was engraved into the depths of his soul, and he would never be able to forget it. Remember your current despair and unwillingness, because in the future, you will no longer be free. I will take you away from death, and I will make you pay for this with your entire life. Qin Yu lifted a hand and placed a finger between Shang Yuntai's eyebrows. Black energy billowed out, writhing beneath his skin like a giant snake. It desperately struggled before being swallowed up. Shang Yuntai's eyes widened, and he stubbornly stared at Qin Yu, as if he wanted to preserve this face in his mind forever. After a long time, Shang Yuntai's chest caved in. He spat out a mouthful of foul air that had been suppressed for many years and closed his eyes, falling into a deep sleep. At this moment, Qin Yu was suddenly enlightened. Shang Yuntai would use his entire life to repay today's graciousness. In the future, he would inevitably have to pay a heavy price for the little blue lamp. A trace of panic rose up in Qin Yu's heart. He couldn't help but feel a bit of fear, but he immediately suppressed it and calmed his heart. He had already walked far too far on this road. He had long become one with the little blue lamp. There was no longer any possibility of separating them. Since this was the case, he might as well stick out his chest and calmly face all of this. He believed that he could withstand it. Chapter 541. Living in the endless sea without any waves or waves made it hard for one to truly feel the passage of time. But every day that passed left a deep impression on Qin Yu. This was because his strength was constantly growing along with the river of time. Thus, 3 months after Shang Yuntai entered the endless sea, the transformation of his emperor-level demon body was about to complete. This feeling suddenly appeared in his heart, but before he could be too surprised, a warm current spread through his body. It was like a flame had been ignited within him, turning him into a heaven and earth furnace. As Xiao Chun moved, he could clearly feel the terrifying energy flowing through every inch of his flesh and blood. Within the training room, Qin Yu opened his eyes and spat out a mouthful of gray air. He stood up, and his bones began to emit explosive sounds. As the clear sounds entered his ears, they were like the roars of wolves, tigers, and leopards, causing his mind to instinctively shiver. Feeling the state of his body, Qin Yu couldn't suppress the pleasant surprise on his face. After obtaining an emperor-level demon body, his strength would rise by leaps and bounds. Although he wouldn't be able to contend with a Calamity Immortal Realm Supreme Elder, he would at least have the ability to protect himself. As for those below the Calamity Immortal Realm, unless they were a peerless proud son of heaven like Zhao Qinyuan, he could completely crush them. A heroic feeling rose in his heart. From this moment on, Qin Yu could be considered a true powerhouse of this world. Although he was still far from being able to shake the world, he still stood at the edge of the peak. He suddenly had an impulse. He pushed open the door and found the patrolling Wang Chao. He ordered, "Prepare a strength testing room for me." He wanted to know exactly how strong he was now. Although Qin Yu had regained his composure, the subtle emotions in his tone and the bold and upright aura in his words made it easy to sense that he was in a good mood. It was clear he had made some sort of breakthrough. Wang Chao was overjoyed. He hurriedly turned around and began to make arrangements. He had bet his entire life on Qin Yu, so he naturally hoped that he would become stronger. Fu Shan was in closed-door seclusion. When the first garrison General Yuan Jun learned that the Lord Commander wanted to use the examination room, he didn't hesitate to immediately make the best arrangements. When Liang Shui had offended his superiors, the crime he had committed could have been big or small. For Qin Yu to easily let it go could be said to have given him a great deal of face. The 3 garrison generals were close friends and treated Liang Shui Yuani like a nephew. Of course, they owed him a favor. An hour later, Yuan Jun explained in detail how to use it and then respectfully excused himself. Qin Yu waited for him to leave the examination room and then waved his hand to slowly close the heavy stone door. Compared to the Dao Arena's training rooms, the Holy Nether Guard's testing room equipment could be called antiques. Luckily, as a combat legion, the Holy Nether Guard had put a great deal of effort into this aspect. Even if they hadn't been replaced in 100,000 years, the testing results could still be trusted. A sharp light flashed in his eyes, revealing a bit of anticipation. He whispered, "Let's begin." Yuan Jun was personally standing guard outside the examination room. Standing beside him was Wang Chao. Their eyes unconsciously drifted towards the tightly shut stone door. Although he knew that privately inquiring about the Lord Commander's cultivation was somewhat taboo, after hesitating over and over again, Yuan Jun still couldn't hold back his curiosity. Since entering Holy Nether City, Qin Yu hadn't fought in front of others even once. His White Sun boundary talent was indeed inconceivably strong, and his ability to open the endless sea's mystic array was also astonishing. But in the end, this was only evidence. What Qin Yu lacked was sufficient proof of his strength. As the great commander of the Holy Nether Guard, he needed to possess sufficient strength in order to truly control this war beast that had been trapped in the endless sea for 100,000 years. Brother Wang, what did the Lord Commander do today? Wang Chao's mind was also filled with this matter. He forced a smile and said, "Old brother Yuan Jun, don't ask me. I don't know anything either." The Lord Commander suddenly left seclusion and directly ordered me to prepare the examination room. The truth was that these words had already revealed the key information. It was just that he didn't dare to speak about it, because it involved Qin Yu. Yuan Jun's eyes brightened. This person wasn't stupid, and he naturally grasped the key point. When the Lord Commander left seclusion and went straight to the examination room, one didn't need to be a genius to know that he had made a breakthrough. After a moment of hesitation, Yuan Jun didn't say anything more. From his reply, he could see that Wang Chao was a very cautious person. Asking too much would be bad. Outdated examination equipment had its advantages. Once the Lord Commander left the examination room, he would be able to see some of his depths through the traces left behind. Wang Chao relaxed a little. Now that he had become the personal guard captain, his future prospects were limitless. He didn't want to lose everything he had because he spoke too much. There was no need to ask too many questions. Good for you, good for me, and good for everyone. As for the Lord Commander's strength, the Demon Ascension Gate's small world had suffered such a tragic death, and yet he was able to come out unscathed. His strength shouldn't be too bad. Wang Chao wasn't worried about this. He just couldn't figure out just what level the Lord Commander's strength was at. From the aura he sensed, it was only at the revered Blue Sea level. But Wang Chao was well aware that if he believed this, his head would have been clamped between a door, which revered Blue Sea cultivator could make him feel as if he were facing a towering mountain. The Lord Commander, had hidden himself quite deeply. Perhaps he could crush him to pieces with just a wave of his hand. As the personal guard captain, he was responsible for protecting such an incomparably powerful Lord Commander. This was indeed an incomparably sorrowful matter. But Wang Chao's skin was extremely thick, so he didn't feel embarrassed at all. In fact, he wished that Qin Yu was 10 times stronger, or even 100 times stronger. Being protected by someone and being able to do as he pleased, that was also a very high ideal in life, right? Time continued to pass. Qin Yu had already been in the examination room for a long time. If it was only to test his strength, he should have finished by now. Could there have been some accident? Or perhaps the result wasn't ideal. As the two of them were feeling apprehensive and their expectations were constantly falling, the stone door to the examination room suddenly opened, and Qin Yu calmly walked out. From his appearance, there shouldn't be anything wrong, right? Yuan Jun and Wang Chao quickly stepped forwards and bowed. Qin Yu hesitated for a moment and said, "Yuan Jun, I didn't hold back today. I really apologize. I'll have to trouble you to find someone to clean up the mess." Then he walked away. Wang Chao was confused and hurriedly followed. Looking at the Lord Commander's back, he felt as if he were in a hurry to leave. Just what was going on? What did he mean by not holding back? Wang Chao had a sad expression. He thought, "Lord Commander, can't you just say everything you want to say?" Yuan Jun was also puzzled. Just as he was about to express that there was no problem, The Lord Commander had already left. He straightened himself and looked towards the examination room. Then, he suddenly slapped his forehead. He had been completely confused by the Lord Commander's actions. If he went in and took a look, everything would be clear. He turned and stepped into the training room. Then, there was no then, Yuan Zhen's eyes widened and his mouth opened so wide that it could swallow a cow. He looked at the examination room in a daze, as if 10,000 horses were galloping through his mind. Because this was something that the Lord Commander wanted to use. And in addition to the fact that the Lord Commander had obtained his approval, this was the first time he had truly issued an order. Yuan Zhen naturally didn't dare to be careless. This examination room was the highest level of the Holy Netherguard. Only Fu Shan, the 3 garrison generals, and several other old Holy Netherguard elders had the qualifications to use it. Before Qin Yu arrived, Yuan Zhen had personally come to inspect the room to make sure that there were no problems. But now, what did he see? The metal pillar used to test the eruption of power had been completely twisted, turning into a dancing fried dough twist. The crushed stones on the ground should have been used to test the strength of one's palm. 3 days ago, he had exhausted all of his strength in order to leave behind a shallow palm print. And there was also the soul lamp. When he poured his divine sense into it, the brighter the light, the stronger the soul would be. But now, it was pitch black. It should have been burnt out. Because of some reason, the Holy Netherguard was unable to produce a calamity immortal realm existence. But this top examination room was enough to withstand the full eruption of a peak blue sea. The chaotic scene in front of him reminded Yuan Zhen that this was a terrifying might that far surpassed the blue sea realm. Calamity immortal. As soon as this thought appeared, Yuan Zhen was shocked. Could the Lord Commander be at the calamity immortal realm? But thinking about it carefully, this was impossible. This was because the calamity immortal realm was a transcendent existence. Even in the demonic path, they were important characters, so how could they be exiled into the endless sea? The Lord Commander must have made a great breakthrough recently to have his current strength. Even if he wasn't at the calamity immortal realm, his strength shouldn't be too far off. His entire body trembled with excitement. At this moment, Garrison General Yuan Zhen sighed with emotion. The Lord Commander had hidden himself far too deeply. His mind was in chaos. He recalled the day the Lord Commander first entered Holy Nether City. If he didn't understand the rules, then he would teach him a good lesson. But now that he thought about it, he only had a few words to say. "Thank you for not killing me." No, he had to immediately report this matter to Lord Fu Shan. The Lord Commander possessed a terrifying strength comparable to the calamity immortal realm. This far surpassed their expectations. The Holy Netherguard had to respond to this. At the very least, they had to let the Lord Commander know that they held the utmost respect for him. Yuan Zhen flushed red and turned to leave. But at this time, he caught sight of something from the corner of his eyes. Because he was deep in the examination room and the lighting array formations had been destroyed, he wasn't able to clearly see what it was. Pausing in place for a moment, his complexion uncertain, Yuan Zhen stiffly walked over. When he arrived in front of that common-looking blue stone in the depths of the examination room and saw the clear fist imprint on it, he was completely dumbfounded. It wasn't that he was shocked by Qin Yu's strength, which was comparable to the calamity immortal realm. It was enough to leave behind a mark on the blue stone, but this stone was a wondrous treasure. Any damage it suffered would quickly restore itself. Unless his lips shivered, Yuan Zhen felt that in his entire life, he had never been stimulated as much as he was now. His trembling hand fell onto the fist mark. He closed his eyes and gently stroked it. After several breaths of time, his eyes flashed open. He even forgot to breathe as tears began to flow down his face. This aura that caused his soul to tremble, it couldn't be wrong. It couldn't be wrong. Emperor-level demon body. This was the Emperor-level demon body. There was only a single step between the Emperor level and the Saint level. As he thought of the 100,000 years of waiting and the countless seniors that had died unwillingly, tears streamed down Yuan Zhen's cheeks. He covered his mouth to prevent himself from sobbing. A moment later, the holy nether guards that were standing guard outside the examination room saw Garrison General Yuan Jun rush out holding a blue stone with red eyes. Before they could regain their composure, Yuan Jun had already left like the wind, vanishing from their line of sight. All that was left behind was an unfathomable back. Just what had happened. Fu Shan's cultivation had already reached a bottleneck. The holy nether guards couldn't give birth to calamity immortals. This was a shackle that had been branded into their bloodline. In the past, he might have tried to break through this shackle, but now he had already accepted his fate. Several days ago, he had obtained some harvests. Although it was impossible for him to make a breakthrough, he could still increase his strength by a bit. But at this critical moment, the alarm within the seclusion room began to ring loudly. Fu Shan's eyes flashed open. He could feel the inspiration in his mind rapidly fading away, and his complexion paled. He took a deep breath and suppressed his anger. With a flick of his sleeves, he opened the stone door and walked out. After taking several steps, the anger in his heart dissipated a little. Fu Shan couldn't help but worry. If they didn't hesitate to disturb his seclusion to alarm him, then it must not be a small matter. Could something major have occurred? Thinking of this, his heart raced. It seemed that the only thing that could alarm him was the Lord Commander. His footsteps quickened. As he hurried out from the passage, Fu Shan immediately saw Yuan Jun pacing back and forth. He was holding a blue stone, his face flushed red, and he was mumbling something. Besides him, there was no one else, and the air wasn't filled with a suffocating pressure. Fu Shan relaxed a little. If only one of the 3 garrison generals had come, then it didn't seem like some great trouble had occurred. As he thought of his cultivation that had been interrupted, his complexion darkened. Yuan Jun, just what happened that requires you to call me out from seclusion? Yuan Jun held the blue stone and walked forwards several steps. He didn't notice Fu Shan's anger at all. He said with a trembling voice, "Today, the Lord Commander went to the strength examination room that you and I used. He was so excited that he found it hard to speak." Fu Shan scolded. The dignified 1st Garrison General actually lost his composure like this. Think clearly before you speak. Just what happened? Yuan Jun's face flushed red. His mouth moved, his heart anxious. He suddenly pushed the blue stone forward. Old Fu looked carefully. The blue stone wasn't remarkable, and the fist mark on it was also ordinary. Fu Shan wasn't able to see through its true meaning at first glance. He furrowed his eyebrows, wondering just what Yuan Jun was doing today. That's not right, this blue stone. His eyes widened. After several breaths of time, he stared straight at Yuan Jun. Yuan Jun gulped and nodded. It's that blue stone. After the Lord Commander used the strength examination room, I directly brought it here. His eyes constantly hinted, "Old Fu, feel it. I'm afraid my boundary isn't high enough, so don't make a mistake again." Fu Shan's throat rolled, and his breathing became rapid and deep. His aura, that was always as steady as a mountain, now didn't have the slightest bit left. The anger he felt just now had long since been tossed away. He looked at the blue stone in front of him, stunned for a long time. Then he reached out a trembling hand. Because he was afraid that everything in front of him was fake, afraid that he would suddenly see the light of dawn, only to fall into darkness in the next moment. His fingertips fell onto the fist mark, slowly touching it. Fu Shan's body shivered like a fiercely swaying sieve. He opened his eyes, and without saying a word, tears began to flow out. At this moment, Yuan Jun's taut heartstrings finally relaxed. This man with a will as strong as iron began to cry out loud. He had thoroughly determined that everything today wasn't a dream. His senses hadn't been wrong. Chapter 542. He had smashed apart the testing room that someone had carefully prepared, so there was bound to be a bit of embarrassment in his heart. After Qinyu left, he let out a long breath. He ignored Wang Chao's curious eyes and waved his hand, sending him away. Standing in the garden of the ruined mansion, Qinyu narrowed his eyes. Light constantly flashed within them as thoughts raced through his mind. After today's test, Qinyu had an approximate estimate of his strength after it had risen. If he were to erupt with his full strength, Then with the help of his Emperor-level demon body, he should be able to resist a calamity immortal for some time. But if he wanted to win, it was basically impossible unless his opponent was too careless and had the perfect timing. But this was already shocking enough. On the path of cultivation, the higher one moved towards the peak, the more difficult it would be to take each step. The corresponding gap between the levels would also be so great that it would cause one to feel despair. Within the land of divinity and demons, there were countless talented cultivators. It wasn't rare for them to rely on various methods and hidden cards to jump ranks to fight. But most of them were limited to Blue Sea and below. Once one entered the Blue Sea realm, they would come into contact with the rules of heaven and earth, and the power they could control would suddenly skyrocket. Even the difference of a small realm would be very difficult to overcome. For someone at the Blue Sea realm to remain undefeated in front of a tribulation transcender for a short period of time, if news of this were spread out, it was likely that no one would believe it. That was because the gap between the two of them was not something that could be described with the words the difference between heaven and earth. That was a completely different level, one that couldn't be compared to the heavens and earth when a calamity immortal attacked. Unless they were at the same boundary, there was no way they could escape. This was an iron law in the hearts of all cultivators in the land of divinity and demons. Thus, Chinyu was satisfied with his current strength. But satisfaction didn't mean satisfaction. After taking the demon body tempering pill several times, he still had at least half of it left. Even if it couldn't help him reach the saint level, it could still help him take another half step. It was just that after the Emperor-level demon body's transformation was complete, Chinyu vaguely felt that something was wrong. But he wasn't able to grasp what it was. It was like a powerful instinct, but what was it? As Chinyu furrowed his eyebrows in thought, Fu Shan hurried over and asked to see him. Wang Chao, who was denouncing the commander's antics, was startled because he had never seen Fu Shan like this before. "I want to see the Lord Commander." Although he tried his best to keep his voice calm, one could still feel the surging emotions he was suppressing. What had happened? Could it be that the Lord Commander had failed in his courtship and forced himself on her? But that's not right. I've been guarding outside for the past few days, and I haven't seen the commander go out at all. Although Wang Chao's mind was filled with all sorts of thoughts, he didn't dare to hesitate. He was well aware that although the Lord Commander was the highest authority within the Holy Netherguard, the premise was that Fu Shan and the others had submitted to him. If Fu Shan turned hostile, the Holy Netherguard's position would change in the blink of an eye. "Please wait a moment, Deputy Commander Fu Shan. I'll send a message right away." Wang Chao's voice was heavy as he conveyed the message that Fu Shan wanted to see him. Before things were clear, he dared not say anything. He only hoped that the commander could sense something from his deep and worried tone so that he could make preparations. Qin Yu's eyes flashed. He lightly said, "Let him in." This request for a meeting wasn't unexpected. In the examination room, Qin Yu had displayed his full strength. Even if Yuan Zhen didn't witness it with his own eyes, he could still sense the strength he possessed from the aftermath. The Holy Netherguard naturally had to confirm this and then change their attitude. Qin Yu wasn't disgusted by this. After being trapped in the endless sea for 100,000 years, no matter how careful they were, they couldn't be too careful. Fu Shan hurried in. He deeply looked at Qin Yu and then fell to his knees. This subordinate greets the commander. This etiquette was very heavy. Even Wang Chao and the others normally only needed to cup their hands together. Qin Yu lifted a hand. "Rise." He sighed inwardly. After touching upon the calamity immortal realm, his status was truly different. Fu Shan didn't stand up. He took a deep breath and said, "This subordinate has a question in his heart. I hope that the commander can tell me the truth." He looked up and pursed his lips. "May I ask, Lord Commander, have you already achieved an Emperor-level demon body?" Qin Yu's heart shook, but he didn't reveal anything on his face. His thoughts raced, and he soon realized that there should be some traces left behind in the examination room today. He hesitated for a moment and then nodded. Yes. Although he had already expected this, Fu Shan was still excited to hear Qin Yu personally admit it. His face flushed red. "Commander, Could you allow this subordinate to sense something? Qin Yu could understand Fu Shan's current mood. Since he had already admitted this, there was no need to hide it anymore. He lifted his hand and pointed his fingers upwards. Then, he fiercely clenched his fist. There was a muffled popping sound in the air, and invisible air currents scattered in all directions, emitting an incomparably powerful aura. At this moment, Fu Shan no longer had any doubts. His body shivered, and he nearly spoke incoherently. "Congratulations, Commander. This is too good. This is too good. The future of the Holy Netherguard will be handed over to you. We will become the sharp swords in your hands, opening a path for you." Qin Yu smiled. Fu Shan rise. He knew that from today onwards, Fu Shan and the others had truly been subdued, and the Holy Netherguard was under his control. Yes. Fu Shan took a deep breath and respectfully stood up. His hands fell to his sides. But soon, his complexion became cloudy and uncertain. Qin Yu's eyes flashed. "What is it?" Fu Shan said in a low voice. This subordinate suddenly thought of a key point. According to the records of the Holy Netherguard, after the demon body breaks through to the Emperor realm, if one wishes to step into the Saint realm, they will need to slay a calamity immortal realm demon beast, refine its demon blood, and swallow its undying demon soul. Only then will they be able to succeed. Qin Yu's heart skipped a beat. He originally felt that something was wrong, but now it became clear. It was clear that the warning he instinctively received was the matter that Fu Shan spoke of. Calamity, immortal realm demon beasts. Disregarding whether or not they existed in the land of divinity and demons, even if they did, their strength would inevitably shake the heavens and earth. Qin Yu simply had no chance of hunting them down. In fact, the inheritances of the previous holy monarchs were all personally raised by the previous holy monarchs, and they had already obtained the approval of all sides of the demonic path. As for hunting down calamity, immortal realm demon beasts, that was naturally accomplished by the demonic path. But Qin Yu had been exiled to the endless sea, and he didn't have the qualifications to do so. Moreover, he had to keep the matter of his emperor-level demon body a secret. Otherwise, before he could hunt down a calamity, immortal realm demon beast, he would become prey to others. Qin Yu frowned and looked at Fu Shan. Fu Shan bitterly shook his head. Although the endless sea is large, there are no calamity, immortal realm demon beasts. His eyes revealed a pained expression. He thought that he still had a lot of time, and although he was distressed over this matter, he wasn't too anxious. He would slowly make plans in the future. But now that Qin Yu had an emperor-level demon body, did he really have to wait here? The demonic path was tyrannical and overbearing. Their cultivation also required them to be brave and diligent. If they encountered a setback and fell into a bottleneck, then once they delayed for too long, their chances of making a breakthrough in the future would be greatly reduced. If they stayed in the endless sea, the commander wouldn't be able to make a breakthrough in his demon body. But if he didn't make a breakthrough in his demon body, he wouldn't be able to leave. At the very least, this was an endless cycle. Qin Yu naturally understood this. His eyebrows relaxed, and he calmly said, "Since I can't make a breakthrough in the endless sea, I will leave." Fu Shan's heart shrank. "Commander, you cannot be impulsive. To leave the endless sea without permission is an unpardonable crime." Qin Yu looked at him. Even the evolution of the heavenly Tao leaves behind a slim chance of survival. There must be a way to safely leave the endless sea. Fu Shan, don't lie to me. The air fell deathly silent. Fu Shan struggled for a long time. Finally, he sighed. He knew that from the moment he hesitated, the truth was that he already knew what the result would be. How could someone like the Lord Commander be willing to wither away in the endless sea? Chapter 543. Fu Shan introduced the information about heaven trampling or sea burial in detail. To put it simply, it could be summed up in one sentence. At most, for people would have to work together and, with sacred Nether City as the starting point, rush to the boundless sea above their heads. If they could break through the sea, it would be considered a success. Of course, this matter sounded simple, but the actual difficulty was terrifyingly high. There were no records of success in the Holy Netherguard's inheritance, but there were countless examples of failure. The result was that they were swallowed up by the endless sea and ended up without even bones remaining. Commander, the path to sea burial is almost certain to die. Perhaps you can wait a little longer. Who knows if things will turn for the better? Fu Shan's voice was hoarse. The appearance of an emperor-level demon body should have been a time for him to cheer, but he couldn't bring himself to be happy at all. The commander of the Holy Netherguard that had been exiled to the endless sea had actually formed an emperor-level demon body and was only a step away from the saint level. This was the greatest mockery of all. Qin Yu lightly said, "You and I are both well aware that in this situation, I can only give it my all. So, there is no need to say anything else." Fu Shan clenched his teeth, a fierce light in his eyes. "If Lord Commander must rush in, then you must accept my arrangements. The hopes of the Holy Netherguard rest on your shoulders. I will do my utmost to ensure your safety." Qin, you didn't doubt this. "What are you planning to do?" Fu Shan paced back and forth. 4 people rushing through together is the best result after countless Holy Netherguard casualties. One of the spots is left for Hai Lanlan. This girl's physique is special. She can mobilize the power of the ocean and provide great assistance to the commander in the process of clearing the trial. As for the other 2 spots, this subordinate will need some time to prepare. Although the Holy Netherguard is unable to give birth to a calamity immortal, after countless years of inheritance, there will always be some amazingly talented seniors who passed away in meditation and passed on their cultivation. I will choose the masters of the Holy Netherguard to fuse with. Once this is completed, they will be able to provide a formidable protection for Commander. There was a hint of pain in his eyes. There was no such thing as obtaining something for no reason in this world. The risk of inheriting such a terrifying cultivation was extremely high, and failure would only result in death. The cultivation of the ancestors that had been passed down could not be refined endlessly. Each cultivation could only be refined 5 times, after which it would completely dissipate. Therefore, they had to choose the most outstanding people to try. Furthermore, it was unknown how many talented disciples would lose their lives in order to complete the fusion of the 2 cultivation bases. But Fu Shan had no choice in this matter. Qin Yu had already decided to go all out, and the Holy Netherguard would do everything they could to ensure his survival. Qin Yu frowned. "Is the fusion difficult?" Fu Shan took a deep breath. The Holy Netherguard does not fear death. As long as the commander can be safe, any price is worth it. Between his words, one could faintly smell the thick scent of blood. Qin Yu was silent. He already had a premonition that what Fu Shan was about to do would cause many people to lose their lives. And these people included their parents, children, relatives, friends, but he couldn't refuse them. What are the difficulties in the fusion? Maybe I can provide some help. This was the only thing Qin Yu could do. Fu Shan's eyes were filled with pain. "It's mainly because my body isn't strong enough." When a Holy Netherguard refined the demonic energy underground, although they could obtain a formidable strength, their mortal bodies were constantly eroded by the demonic energy all year round, and they would have internal injuries. Even if they wanted to make up for it and cultivate body tempering methods, they still wouldn't be able to reach large success. As for the strength passed down by our ancestors, once it is fused into our bodies, it will erupt like a volcano, rolling through our limbs and bones. Those with weaker bodies will find it hard to withstand it. Qin Yu's eyes flashed and his thoughts raced. After a long time, he slowly said, "If it is only a problem with a mortal body, I might have a better candidate." With a flick of his sleeves, 2 large fellows appeared out of thin air. They bowed and said, "Greetings, Master." Fu Shan's eyes widened, his face filled with shock. He hadn't sensed these 2 people appear at all. Just how many secrets did this Lord Commander in front of him have? Qin Yu lifted a hand. "Fu Shan, what do you think of these 2? Tuba and Tutu had already received secret instructions. They stepped forwards, blood energy erupting from their bodies. There was a thunderous sound in the void, and the ground beneath them began to crack apart. Tuba's mortal body had already broken into the blue sea realm, and Tutu had also stepped into this boundary. With the two of them using their full strength, when combined with their tall and sturdy bodies, the pressure was truly astonishing. Fu Shan regained his composure. He carefully sensed them and was immediately overjoyed. These two barbarians had bodies that were ridiculously strong. It shouldn't be a problem for them to withstand the fusion. Commander, if they accept the fusion, then this subordinate has an 80% chance of success. He hesitated for a moment and then clenched his teeth. There's something I didn't say just now. Once the strength passed down by our ancestors is fused together, it will form an invisible cage that will make it impossible for our cultivation to advance any further. Qin Yu frowned. This was unexpected, but as he thought about it, if one wanted to obtain a powerful cultivation out of nowhere, they would have to pay a reasonable price. As he was hesitating, Tuba grinned. Master has forgotten that we Titans cultivate our mortal bodies. If we can't advance our cultivation, it won't be a loss to us. Fu Shan was stunned. This was the first time he had seen a tribe that only cultivated their mortal bodies. But they didn't have any cultivation foundation, so whether or not they could smoothly fuse with the strength passed down by their ancestors was an unknown. He spoke of his worries. But before Qin Yu could speak, Tutu curled his lips. We'll know once we try. Tuba nodded in deep thought. As Titans with incomparably powerful mortal bodies, they were confident in their abilities. If they fail, they would just spit out a few mouthfuls of blood. Would it take their lives? Of course, compared to His Highness, the mortal bodies that they were so proud of weren't anything at all. Tuba and Tutu furtively glanced over, their eyes full of envy. They really wanted to know just what His Highness ate growing up. His mortal body wasn't any worse than theirs to begin with, but after not seeing him for some time, he had become so formidable. As Titans that specialized in cultivating the mortal body, they had an extremely keen sense of blood fluctuations. Others might not be able to feel the aura of Qin Yu's mortal body that he restrained, but in the eyes of Tuba and Tutu, Qin Yu's ordinary body contained a terrifying strength that could destroy the heavens and earth. Fu Shan's mind was filled with the word try. He wanted to remind them that fusing their cultivations wasn't a joke, but could be seen that Tuba and Tutu were brimming with confidence. The Lord Commander also didn't seem to have any intention of stopping them, so he suppressed these words in his heart. He had no idea who Tuba and Tutu were, but since these two were willing to try, then he might as well let them. There wasn't any loss if they failed, and if they succeeded, the Holy Netherguard would be able to reduce a great deal of unnecessary losses. It had to be known that just now he had already decided to have his only son participate in the cultivation fusion. As the vice commander, if he couldn't set a good example, how could others trust him? As his thoughts turned to this, Fu Shan really hoped that Tuba and Tutu could succeed. Without further delay, he bowed and hurried away. Fusing cultivations wasn't simple, and he had to inform the others before he began. Fu Shan summoned the 3 great generals of the Holy Netherguard, as well as the high-level figures. Then, he straightforwardly explained everything to everyone. The news of the Emperor-level demon body naturally drew cheers from everyone. But the difficult problem of making a breakthrough left everyone paling. Fu Shan rapped the table. The Lord Commander has already decided to take the road of sea burial and rush out of the endless sea. Only by doing so will he be able to find a turning point for his breakthrough. Everyone debated for a long time. Some people clearly proposed that the Lord Commander shouldn't be so impulsive. But after Fu Shan conveyed Qin Yu's firm will, they all fell silent. They couldn't help but feel a bit of admiration for him. Even though he knew that there was no chance of survival, he still dared to risk it all. The reason the Lord Commander had his current achievements wasn't just because he had a white sun boundary talent. The matter of Tuba and Tutu accepting the inheritance cultivation fusion was quickly passed. The high-level figures of the Holy Netherguard began to work at full speed. All the arrangements needed for the cultivation fusion were quickly prepared. The first attempt didn't go smoothly. Not long after the cultivation fusion, Tuba and Tutu failed one after another. Everyone watched in shock as they spat out several mouthfuls of blood. Then, they wiped it away without a care in the world and shouted to try again. The Titan race specialized in cultivating the mortal body. Ever since they were young, they had tempered their bodies as one. After reaching a profound level, the intensity of their mortal bodies had reached an astonishing level. In addition, the Holy Netherguard had prepared an array formation that had a buffering effect. This was the reason why it seemed so easy. If it were anyone else, they feared that the moment the fusion failed, the inheritance cultivation would have gone berserk and their mortal body would have been shattered into 17 or 18 pieces. Fu Shan's heart settled. He quickly led some people to look for the source of the problem. Since the two of them had failed in the fusion process, that meant they met the conditions. And most importantly, Tuba and Tutu's mortal bodies were amazingly strong. As long as they could grasp the rhythm, it wouldn't be a problem to try several dozen more times. 10 days later, the somewhat dispirited Tuba and Tutu sat down in a giant array formation. The power of the array formation drew out faint traces of the inheritance cultivation and fused them into their bodies. Fu Shan and the others looked at this from afar, their faces full of praise and gratification. After experimenting 30 to 40 times and even wasting several of their inheritance cultivations, they had finally succeeded. But at this time, they sighed with emotion. The Lord Commander was truly amazing. He actually had such fierce characters hidden in his hands. Their mortal bodies were as strong as iron lumps. 30 to 40 attempts to complete the fusion was the result of constant adjustments based on the two's performance. If someone from the Holy Netherguard were to attempt this, they would die every time they failed and wouldn't be able to accumulate any experience. At the very least, the failure rate would be 10 times or even dozens of times higher. They could only rely on luck. After staying for another half a day, Fu Shan confirmed that Tuba and Tutu's cultivation fusion was progressing smoothly and there wouldn't be any more accidents. If there isn't an accident, Tuba and Tutu will need a year to fully control the cultivation that is fused into their bodies. He paused for a moment. This subordinate suggestion to Lord Commander is to attempt the road of sea burial a year from now, because the main body of the Holy Palace will open at that time. Qin Yu's eyes flashed. The main body of the Holy Palace? Fu Shan said in a low voice. Once the seat of the Holy Monarch is vacant, the main body of the Holy Palace will close itself off and will only open on a specific date. I have looked through the information and found that the next time the Holy Palace opens is a year from now. When the main body of the Holy Palace opens, all Demon Body King level cultivators and above can enter and search for the powerful inheritances hidden within. His eyes brightened. It is rumored that the Holy Palace contains the remains of the Holy Monarch. If one obtains it, they will automatically obtain a portion of the Holy Palace's recognition and become the Holy Son. As for the Holy Son, that is the status of the successor of the Holy Monarch. If Lord Commander can obtain it, then you will become an extremely important existence within the demonic path. You can even rely on this status to obtain the assistance of powerhouses within the demonic path. Your chances of hunting down Calamity, immortal realm demon beasts will increase. Chapter 544. The two demon attendants sat across from each other. Between them was a red sandalwood table. The lid of the teapot on the table was open and steam rolled up into the air, bringing with it a rich fragrance. Sometimes it outlined a pine tree welcoming guests. Sometimes it was a shepherd boy riding a cow under a willow tree. Sometimes it was a sea of clouds, and sometimes it was a towering mountain. The main body of the Holy Palace is about to open. The Mu family has made a great deal of preparations and is determined to win, if they are able to obtain the key inheritance. The previous demon attendant poured himself a cup of tea. Although he didn't say it clearly, his meaning was clear. The demon attendant had a calm expression. When I sent Yao Bin to the endless sea, I had already made preparations. Although the Holy Palace's inheritance is important, in the end, what matters is the boundary of the demon body. As long as one can reach the saint level, then no matter how many methods the Mu family has, they can only lower their heads in hatred. But you and I both know that it is impossible to achieve a saint-level demon body in the endless sea. The demon attendant said, "This disciple understands. That is why I have already made preparations in secret. Once everything is ready, I will go to the demon realm." After a long period of silence, the previous demon attendant laid down his teacup. You should be aware of the dangers of the demon realm. Even with your current cultivation, you still might not be able to escape unscathed. The demon attendant lightly said, "In this world, if you want to obtain something, you must first pay the price. The Mu family will forever be the Mu family. I will not give them a chance to restore their surname." After a pause, his voice became a bit colder. The position of Saint Monarch should never have been theirs. There was another long period of silence. The master and disciple quietly drank their tea. It was unknown what thoughts were swirling in their minds. With a light sigh, the previous demon attendant laid down his teacup. "I will go with you to the demon realm. I hope that we can obtain some harvests." The demon attendant stood up and bowed. "Thank you, teacher." Cloud Cluster City. In an underground palace of the Mu family's great residence, there was an exquisite illumination array formation laid down. It sprinkled down a gentle and pure light, illuminating the faces of everyone within. There weren't many people who had the qualifications to participate in today's meeting, but each one was a true figure of the Mu family. Mu Xianglin was only one of them, and his position was even below that of the several old ancestors. Currently, the one sitting in the seat of honor was an old man with white hair and beard and wrinkles all over his body. His eyes were half closed, and he gave off a tired feeling. But if one carefully sensed him, they would discover that hidden beneath his old skin was a terrifying aura that caused one's soul to tremble. How could a top family clan of the demonic path not have a calamity immortal guarding it? How is Muumuu's current condition? The first person on the elder ancestors left asked. His appearance was a bit younger, his hair white and his spirit hale and hardy. Mu Xianglin hurriedly stood up. Muimo is currently in seclusion, trying to break through to the next realm. With the old ancestor's holy monarch object, his chances of success are extremely high. When he mentioned this, his spirits rose and a smile appeared on his face. The old man in the main seat opened his eyes, his voice gentle. "Tell Muimo that he can only succeed this time. He is not allowed to fail." Mu Xianglin bowed. "Old ancestor, please rest assured." Then he hesitated. The Mu family's calamity immortal realm master, divine sea steadying needle, Mu Rugi, closed his eyes. "I have already cleared up the holy palace. All you need to do is act according to the plan." After saying a few words, the weariness on his face deepened. He raised his hand and waved. Everyone stood up, respectfully bowing and excusing themselves. When everyone left the underground palace, the illumination array formation gradually extinguished. Darkness shrouded the area and a cold and gloomy aura suddenly rose. Faintly, there seemed to be panic-stricken and desperate screams coming out from the underground palace. Mu Xianglin's face paled a bit. He forcefully suppressed his thoughts, and his eyes became even firmer. The Mu family had to produce a new holy monarch. They had to. The demonic path's sealed holy palace main body was about to be opened, as the young disciples with demon bodies and above were filled with excitement. The distant immortal sect was also ushering in a joyous occasion. On this day, Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace finally welcomed its new master. Beneath a pavilion atop a mountain peak, there was a woman with peerless elegance. She wore a gorgeous and dignified dress, and there wasn't a single emotion on her beautiful face. As she calmly stood there, it was as if she had become one with the world. She was the incarnation of the endless heavens and earth, causing one to instinctively feel awe. Space faintly fluctuated, and purple moon stepped out. Her expression was calm, but there was an irrepressible pride in her eyes. Indeed, Her judgment of people was extremely accurate. This disciple that she had accepted in the past had risen at an astonishing speed, becoming a phoenix that soared to the highest heavens. After today, she was the master of Nine-Heaven Mirror Moon Palace, one of the most powerful and noble existences amongst the trillions of lives in the land of divinity and demons. Yuanin, the time has come. You should go to the main hall to accept worship. Beneath the pavilion, the woman turned around and bowed. Yes, honorable master. Her voice was faint and without any fluctuations. Although her posture was respectful from start to finish, there wasn't the least bit of emotion in her eyes. It was as if the person in front of her was someone she needed to bow to and call honorable master. Or perhaps it was just a stone to the current Shin Yuanin. There was no difference between a person and a stone. After reaching large success of the sublime lost emotion code, one could erase all emotions. In the eyes of all living beings in the world, they were nothing but ants, and there was no need to care about ants. Shin Yuanin stepped out of the pavilion. Then she stopped and looked back. A puzzled look flashed in her eyes before it melted away like snow. Her powerful and indifferent will had completely crushed these emotions that didn't need to exist into nothingness. Since she couldn't figure out why this place would disturb her tranquil heart lake, then she would thoroughly erase it and no longer be affected. One step up, one step down. Shin Yuanin vanished from sight. Soon, the ringing of bells resounded through the highest heavens. The sound was like brilliant thunder. The coronation ceremony had already begun. At this time, Shin Yuanin was destined to be the focus of everyone's attention. In the eyes of countless people, she would become a transcendent existence comparable to a god. A gust of wind blew past, causing Purple Moon's dress to flutter. She looked at the place where Shin Yuanin had vanished, as if that disciple who had smiled at her in the past would never return. She didn't know why, but Purple Moon suddenly remembered the youth who liked to drink here in the past. Her lips subconsciously tightened. I wasn't wrong. Yuanin's destiny was to become the master of Nine-Heaven Mirror Moon Palace. I raised her and made her the most noble woman in the world. Since you have already died, you should completely vanish into thin air. Don't try to resurrect yourself in her heart and affect her infinitely bright future. I wasn't wrong. Endless Sea, Holy Nether City. Qin Yu didn't know that the most important woman in his life had ascended to the peak of the world, becoming a peerless figure that controlled a division of the immortal sect. Right now, he was diligently cultivating. Layers of azure light rippled around his body. It was like the sea above his head, extremely gentle when it was at its peak. Cultivating the path of water in the endless sea seemed to have a special effect. Ever since Qin Yu had inadvertently stumbled upon the path of water blue, his cultivation had gone smoothly. It could even be described as advancing by leaps and bounds. Now, he was gradually entering a better state. Although he was still far from large success, using the attribute of the path of water to nourish his mortal body was already simple enough. The master of the Holy Palace was about to open and search for a powerful inheritance. The qualifications to enter was a sovereign-level demon body. Although he didn't know what the requirements were for obtaining the inheritance, the demon body boundary was the key. Although the emperor-level demon body was powerful enough, Qin Yu didn't mind becoming even stronger. Becoming the master of the Holy Palace could help him rise up and suppress the highest heavens. Since there was a shortcut to the end, he naturally placed great importance on it. Moreover, there was no longer any possibility for Qin Yu to retreat. If the Mu family could act in the endless sea, they wouldn't leave behind any hidden dangers for themselves. He had to seize the position of the Holy Monarch. As for whether or not he could walk the road of sea burial, Qin Yu wasn't worried. His strength today had given him a great deal of confidence, and he also had a card in his hand that might prove useful in this matter. As Qin Yu was cultivating, Tuba and Tutu were doing their utmost to fuse and control the formidable strength that had suddenly appeared in their bodies. They hadn't cultivated magic arts or supernatural powers, but luckily, they had their own Titan inheritance system. After searching for a long time, they finally found a way to fuse this strength into their bodies. His Highness was the hope of the Titan race. Fu Shan had solemnly warned them of how terrifying the road of sea burial was. Thus, the two of them naturally had to work as hard as they could to make themselves as powerful as possible. They could die, but nothing could happen to His Highness. This was a firm belief that Tuba and Tutu had never wavered in their hearts. Shang Yuntai was also cultivating. The poison in his body had been cleared out, and his mortal body that was riddled with holes was rapidly restored under Wang Chao's care. He burst out with a cultivation passion that surpassed his imagination, as if he wanted to make up for all the time he had lost. In Wang Chao's hometown, this melon baby had gone crazy. The crazy Shang Yuntai had a strong heart that had experienced the vicissitudes of life and death, one that had once struggled to survive. He was constantly growing stronger. Many people said that the road of sea burial was incomparably terrifying, and there had never been a single successful case recorded by the Holy Netherguard. Even Wang Chao privately lamented about it. But Shang Yuntai had absolute confidence in the Lord Commander. When the Lord Commander pulled him back from the gates of hell, this confidence had already seeped into his bones. The Lord Commander would definitely succeed. He, Shang Yuntai, would follow the Lord Commander and soon return to the demonic path. Everything he had suffered would be paid back in full. He wanted those that were close to him to no longer be sad, those that had hurt him to the point of despair, and those that had let him down to live in regret. This day wouldn't be too far away. In the long lifespan of a cultivator, a year was like a meteor that streaked across the night sky. If one wasn't careful, the year would pass right in front of their eyes. On this day, Holy Nether City was incomparably quiet. But in this silence, one could clearly feel a boundless suppressive strength. It was like a great bow that was gathering strength. Once the time came, it would shoot out a heaven-shaking arrow that would tear apart all obstacles on the road ahead. Hai Lanlan looked at Qin Yu's calm face. She couldn't figure out why he was in such a hurry to walk down this road of certain death. Was the outside world really so difficult for him to give up? Or perhaps there was someone waiting for him? As Hai Lanlan's thoughts raced, an almost imperceptible softness appeared in her increasingly indifferent eyes. He could peacefully stay in Holy Nether City. Although that was the same as being exiled and imprisoned here, as a commander of the entire Holy Netherguard, he could still live a more comfortable life than the vast majority of people in this world. To be able to abandon all of this without hesitation and step onto a road where life or death was uncertain, this required a great deal of courage. It was admirable, but Hai Lanlan couldn't figure out why a person with such courage would do something so absurd in the past. Hai Lanlan shook her head, suppressing these thoughts. Her eyes became indifferent once more. She looked at the sea above her head, her eyes filled with determination. She had already agreed to Uncle Fu Shan's request. She would naturally ensure that he could live no matter the cost. Death, she didn't fear it. But if she could see the skies outside before she died, that would be even more satisfying. She could consider this as completing something for her father that he couldn't do in the past. After completely fusing with their inherited cultivation, Tuba and Tutu's bodies became even more majestic. The two of them stood where they were without expression, like two terrifying vicious beasts that had taken human form. Every breath they took released a powerful aura that caused one's mind to tremble. They saw Hai Lanlan. This delicate and weak girl seemed as if they could knock her down with a single finger. But they didn't dare to underestimate her in the least. After obtaining the cultivation left behind by the Holy Netherguard's ancestors, their senses had become even sharper. They could feel a dangerous aura from her petite body. Moreover, what satisfied Tuba and Tuta the most was that Hai Lanlan's eyes revealed a certain indifference. This was an expression of disregarding life and death. With the same thoughts in their minds, they naturally wouldn't make a mistake. In their simple judgment, those that were willing to give up their lives to protect His Highness were all good people. Fu Shan fell to his knees. "Commander, I wish you a smooth journey." He had already done everything he could, so there was no need to say anything more. Moreover, if he continued, he was worried that he wouldn't be able to help but reveal his worry. Walala, as far as the eye could see, 100,000 holy Nether Guard were kneeling on the ground, forming a sea of blood. Their armor collided with each other, creating a massive sound wave that caused one's mind to surge. We respectfully bid farewell to Commander as you step into the skies. At this time, Wang Chao and the others were kneeling on the ground, their hearts beating like drums. Beneath their masks, their lips were violently trembling from nervousness. You must succeed. Lord Commander, you must succeed. Qin Yu was originally prepared to quietly leave. He never thought that Fu Shan would cause such a great commotion today. But he couldn't help but admit that his mind had been infected and a heroic spirit swelled in his chest. He took a deep breath and slowly said, I know that many of you are still unfamiliar with me. But since I am the leader of the Holy Nether Guard, I will definitely take responsibility for all of you. I ask everyone to rest assured that I am not seeking my own death. If I dare to walk the road of sea burial, then I have my reasons. Today, I guarantee to everyone that I will return soon. Perhaps at that time, the Holy Nether Guard will regain its freedom. Qin Yu turned. Let's go. He took a step forwards and shot into the skies. Tuba and Tutu took a step forwards. The ground fiercely trembled and immediately caved in. Countless cracks erupted, pushing their majestic bodies forwards. Unlike the two of them, Hailanlan didn't move at all. Her light body was lifted up by an invisible strength, and she floated forwards like a fairy. Fu Shan took out a bloodstone from his chest and threw it to the ground. As the bloodstone shattered, he roared out from deep in his throat, Road of Sea Burial, open. In the legends a long time ago, the stone that opened the road was pure white in color. Every time someone died on the road of sea burial, it would reform and form a blood dot within. The blood dots gradually increased until they connected into a vast expanse. Then it gradually became what it was today. Just how many members of the Holy Nether Guard had died on the road of sea burial? Fu Shan would immediately give a precise number. 34,568 people. He took a deep breath and looked up at the four figures that left Holy Nether City. He really didn't want this number to increase again. If the commander died today, then perhaps the Holy Nether Guard would only have one choice left. Perhaps they would be exterminated into a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, but there was no way to retreat. The road of sea burial opened. The moment they stepped out of Holy Nether City, Hailanlan frowned. Her bloodline was special, and she had a strong affinity with the sea. She could feel the intense malice that this sea region was exerting on the four of them. Hailanlan took a deep breath. A subtle aura spread out from her body. It melted into the sea, like a gentle hand that constantly soothed the feelings of disgust it felt. Thus, the sea region remained calm. The four of them rapidly moved forwards without encountering any trouble. Tuba and Tutu couldn't help but arch up their eyebrows. Fu Shan had told them a great deal about the road of sea burial and how to deal with all sorts of dangers. But they had already been in the sea for a long time, and there hadn't been any disturbances at all. This was completely different from what Fu Shan said. Could it be that their luck was good, and they weren't suppressed by the endless sea? It had to be known that at this speed, they would be able to break through the sea soon. Qin Yu glanced over at Hailanlan. Her indifferent expression hadn't changed at all. If it weren't for Mimi's reminder, he wouldn't have been able to sense that she had attacked. Fu Shan's arrangements were indeed reasonable. This little girl was actually able to buy them so much time to calm down. But it was best to stop before going too far. If they continued, they feared they would suffer a backlash. Qin Yu stopped. He turned and grabbed Hailanlan's hand. Before the anger in her eyes could erupt, he lightly said, All right, let's stop here. I will protect you from now on. Rest well and recover. Hailanlan hesitated for a moment. Although she resisted this, she knew that this was the best choice. She took a deep breath and nodded. When she closed her eyes, beads of sweat instantly formed on her forehead, soaking her long hair. Her complexion was pale, and she seemed extremely weak. Qin Yu let out a breath of relief. He was actually a bit worried that Hai Lan wouldn't cooperate because of her previous prejudice. This would save him some unnecessary trouble. He turned and met Tuba and Tutu's startled gazes. After a moment of thought, he knew what they were thinking. He rudely said, "Put away those thoughts. It's your turn next." Before his voice faded away, the endless sea, which was tranquil just a moment ago, suddenly surged with waves, producing deep, rumbling roars. Tuba and Tutu separated, one on the left and one on the right, protecting Chinyu and Hai Lan. With a deep roar, terrifying blood energy fluctuations erupted. They were like two divine mountains that stood above the sea, shattering all the undercurrents that came at them. The road to sea burial was the only chance for the holy Nethergar to survive, but it was also a warning to those who tried to resist their destiny. Thus, after it opened, those who stayed in Holy Nether City could clearly see everything that Chinyu and the others encountered. They could see the pitiful fate of those who tried to resist their destiny, warning those who came later not to try to change their predestined fate. The moment that the deep-sea tsunami erupted, Fu Shan tensed up. This was because he knew that the true test was about to begin. "Lord Commander, no matter what, you must live on. Damned heavens, since you have allowed the entire Holy Nethergar to see hope, then please don't take it away." Tuba and Tutu easily resisted. After fusing their cultivations together, each of them possessed a terrifying strength that surpassed the Blue Sea realm. If they joined forces, they would be able to contend with Chinyu. In addition to their incomparably powerful mortal bodies, they didn't need to fear the vibrating undercurrents at all. They were extremely suitable for opening the road. But the two of them didn't relax at all. This was because this was just the beginning. Moreover, the threat in the road to sea burial wasn't limited to just the endless sea itself. Bang! There was another violent collision. Before the undercurrent could approach Tuba, it was crushed apart by a wild strength. But in this collapsing undercurrent, a giant fish covered in dark golden scales drilled out. Its tail fiercely swung out, howling out like a dark golden arrow. Tuba's powerful blood energy fluctuations only caused it to pause for a moment. "Come!" With a deep roar, a fist punched out. Because the strength behind it was terrifying, the seawater was shaken into powder, causing a white line to appear in the water. The dark golden fish let out a blood-curdling screech as it was sent flying. It could be clearly seen that countless cracks instantly appeared on the scales on the surface of its body. Then, the scales collapsed inch by inch, revealing the flesh underneath and the crisscrossing cracks on its surface. Blood with a hint of sparks surged out violently. Seeing this, Tuba's complexion changed. Impossible! At the same time, within Holy Nether City, Fu Shan also cried out in alarm. The three great generals and the others nearby all paled. Wang Chao's heart fiercely shrank. He couldn't care less about being rude and loudly roared out. Just what happened? How could there be gold stars in the blood of this fish? Hua Yanting and Yellow Mountain clearly discovered that everyone around them had panic-stricken expressions on their faces, as if they had seen something extremely horrifying. No one answered Wang Chao's question. The scene that appeared in front of them instantly sucked out all the strength in their bodies, causing their fields of vision to darken. It was clear that this blood with gold stars was conveying some sort of ominous message. Wang Chao rushed forwards, his eyes ice cold. "Vice Commander, I need to know just what the Lord Commander encountered." His voice was calm, but beneath this calm ruthlessness, his eyes began to turn red. If something were to happen to the Lord Commander, he had no idea just what he would become. This was an extremely rude question, but at this moment, no one cared about reprimanding Wang Chao for offending his superiors. Even Yuan Zhen, who valued rules the most, didn't have the strength to speak at this time. Fu Shan's voice was hoarse, as if he had walked through the desert for many days. In the countless records of the road of sea burial that has been opened, there have been several extremely tragic times where everyone that stepped onto the road of sea burial was drowned and swallowed up by the monster beasts of the endless sea. His eyes were dazed. He paused for a moment and then continued to say, "In these tragic cases, there was blood mixed with gold stars. According to our inference, this kind of blood containing gold stars has an extremely strong attraction to the monster beasts of the sea. Moreover, it will cause them to fall into a berserk state." Wang Chao instantly froze. The road of sea burial was already a road of near certain death. Now that he encountered something like this, he would undoubtedly die. He shivered and screamed out, "No, absolutely not. Hurry and call the commander back. They just left not too long ago. They definitely have time to escape." Fu Shan shook his head. Once the road of sea burial opens, there is no retreat. There's no time. His entire person instantly aged. His straight back became stooped, and a bleak aura filled his body. Chapter 545. With the appearance of golden blood, the road to sea burial had no chance of survival. These words were not only known to everyone in the Holy Nethergard, but they were also the most terrifying scene in the memories of countless people. There was no other like it. Perhaps many of those who witnessed this scene in history had already passed away, but their fear had been passed down from generation to generation. Thus, when the first drop of golden blood appeared in sight, the entire Holy Nether City seemed to fall into a vacuum. All sound instantly faded away, leaving behind only a deathly silence. Wang Chao felt as if the heavens were playing a great joke on him. In the midst of despair, they had given him hope and then extinguished it a moment before the light of dawn arrived. High-intensity emotional fluctuations caused his consciousness to fall into a blurry state. Then, he erupted with a bizarre rage. This damned heavens. Was it planning on playing with him until he collapsed? Playing with him until he fell into despair? Fine. Since you won't let me live, then I'll die for you to see. Clenching his teeth, his eyes red, Wang Chao's cultivation aura instantly erupted. He wanted to rush into the road of sea burial, but someone was already standing in front of him. If it were anyone else, Wang Chao feared he would have already attacked in his rage. But the one standing in front of him was Shan Yuntai. "Old Shan, get out of the way." Although they hadn't known each other for long, these two men were extremely congenial and were now truly good friends. Moreover, from the depths of his heart, Wang Chao had always admired Shan Yuntai's patience over the years and his current demonic efforts. Shan Yuntai said in a low voice, "Old Wang, don't be foolish. If you rush in now, you won't be able to help the commander. You will only make the situation worse." Wang Chao bitterly smiled. "I indeed can help the commander, but since this damned heavens wants to play with me to death, then I will follow their wishes, but before I die, I will struggle a little and give the damned heavens some entertainment." His words were filled with ruthlessness, making it seem as if he had gone insane. Shan Yuntai sucked in a deep breath. He knew he had to be decisive. This fellow, Old Wang, might turn against him in the next moment, not even recognizing him. "You bastard, you were the one who told me that the commander would definitely succeed the throne of the Holy Monarch, giving me hope to live on. But now you don't believe me. Surnamed Wang, if you want to die, just turn around and find a random place. I don't care if you smash your head into pieces, but if you dare to rush into the path of sea burial and harm the commander, I will absolutely not let you off." Shan Yuntai was someone who had faced death and experienced all sorts of tempering of his mind. He had long since reached a level where he wouldn't be affected by praise or disgrace. There were very few large fluctuations in his emotions that he would reveal. Thus, when he shouted out at Wang Chao, he subconsciously explained, "No, I didn't want to harm the commander. Shan Yuntai shouted, "Shut up. Let me tell you, Lord Commander will definitely succeed today. He definitely won't die here." His voice was resolute and decisive, without the slightest bit of hesitation. Wang Chao's lips moved as if he wanted to say something. In the end, he swallowed his words. Hua Yanting and Huang Shan finally came back to their senses. They rushed over and hugged Wang Chao tightly, telling him not to be impulsive. But when the two of them looked at Shan Yuntai, there was a bit of ill intent in their eyes. Their big brother was indeed a bit impulsive, But didn't this little brat's words go too far? It was no different from a direct slap in the face. Don't forget who it was that took care of you and pulled you back from the gates of hell. If it weren't for our big brother, you would have already become a pile of rotten bones. How could you have lasted until the Lord Commander helped? One ungrateful bastard. Shang Yuntai let out a sigh of relief. As he sensed the eyes of the two of them, he bitterly smiled. But besides this method, he didn't believe he could stop Wang Chao. But that didn't matter. Once the Lord Commander succeeded, they would understand that he wasn't trying to ruin Wang Chao's reputation, but was truly trying to save him. Looking up at the sky, they could clearly see the scene that the four of them were experiencing. They could even hear the angry roars of the endless sea in their ears. Shang Yuntai's eyes were firm, not wavering in the slightest. The Lord Commander would succeed. He would definitely succeed. Thinking about it, in the entire Holy Nether City, he was the only one who still had confidence in himself. Not too far away, Liang Shui no longer had his cold and callous appearance. Instead, he was sobbing with tears and snot. Tuba and Tutu were also filled with pessimism, but they had already prepared themselves to protect His Highness with their lives. Thus, they soon steadied their minds. They glanced at each other and felt the same resolve in each other's hearts. The time to die for His Highness had arrived. The faces and voices of their loved ones and friends in their tribe flashed through their minds. Then, they forcefully suppressed these thoughts. In their eyes, there was only cruelty and insanity left. Kill! With a loud roar, Tuba and Tutu's bodies suddenly grew by a foot. Their robes tore apart, revealing their strong bodies that seemed to be cast from iron. On the surface of their bronze skin, lines began to rapidly appear. They were simple and rough, releasing an endlessly wild aura. The Titan race had existed for a long time, and they naturally had a special inheritance. What Tuba and Tutu were activating now was one of the Titan race's secret techniques. They burned their bloodline to forcefully return to the source and obtained the terrifying strength of their ancient ancestors. In that instant, the two of them wildly erupted with auras, blazing, boiling hot, and wild blood energy fluctuations recklessly spread outwards. They were like two blazing suns, causing one's mind to tremble. Hai Lan Lan opened her eyes. Her usually indifferent eyes revealed a bit of helplessness and disappointment. It seemed that she wouldn't have the chance to see the outside world. She took a deep breath and prepared to summon the strength within her body. Then, she grabbed onto her hand and looked up at Qinyu's calm face. Rest first. Now isn't the time for you to attack. Hai Lan Lan was a bit absent-minded at this moment. Although she had already prepared herself for death before stepping onto the road of sea burial, when the golden blood appeared, she still instinctively felt a great fear. Qinyu was the commander of the Holy Nether Guard. Since he had already decided to rush through the road of sea burial, it was impossible for him not to know about the golden blood. So why was he still so calm? Did he have some life-saving card in his hands? This thought flashed for a moment, because Hai Lan Lan was well aware of just how terrifying the golden blood was. It was impossible for them to leave this place alive. But what she couldn't deny was that Qin Yu's composure had infected her. Or perhaps it was the pride in her heart that made her unwilling to reveal any fear in the final moments of her life. Hai Lan Lan took a deep breath and closed her eyes. Although she knew that there was no chance of survival, since she had promised Uncle Fu that she would protect Qin Yu with all her strength, she would give it her all. A cold and resolute aura spread out from her body. Qin Yu's eyebrows arched up before he composed himself. This girl was clearly prepared to go all out. Qin Yu looked up. His eyes were deep, as if they could pierce through the barriers of space and time and fall upon the unknown. There was some hesitation and contemplation, but there was no fear. This was because from the start he knew that regardless of whether things went smoothly or not, he wouldn't die here. Undying's Awakening had become his most powerful life-saving card. Even in the road of sea burial, Qin Yu believed that Undying had the ability to bring him away. And this was something he had confirmed with Undying when he first entered the road of sea burial, and he had obtained an affirmative reply. As for Hylon, Tuba, and Tutu, he could use the Nine-Realm Holy Land Saint Sun token to bring them away. However, the reason Shinyu rushed through the road of sea burial today was so that he could leave the endless sea and participate in the struggle for the Holy Palace's inheritance. Thus, unless it was a life-or-death moment, he wouldn't let Undying take action. Moreover, he had a card in his hand that might have a miraculous effect. But now wasn't the time to use this card. The monster beasts of the endless sea had been attracted here by the golden blood. The depths of the endless sea, where undercurrents tumbled about, now seemed to explode. Monster beasts that he had seen before and hadn't seen before, monster beasts that looked normal or strange, all rushed forwards with blood-red eyes. Their roars were terrifying to the extreme. These monster beasts were indeed powerful, especially after falling into a berserk state. They didn't fear death at all, but Tuba and Tuta soon taught them that not fearing death didn't mean they wouldn't die. Massive flowers of blood bloomed in the seawater. Every time this happened, there was a deep rumbling sound, like thunder exploding in the deep sea. Tuba and Tutu had become the incarnation of humanoid machines. All the monster beasts in the sea that blocked their way were instantly torn to pieces. Everyone in Holy Nether City that was filled with despair couldn't help but be shocked by the terrifying strength that these two people erupted with. Only by standing outside and witnessing the entire process could they truly feel the terrifying killing power contained within those simple punches and kicks. At this time, a thought popped up in everyone's mind. If these two terrifying fellows stood on the opposite side of the Holy Nethergar, could they stop them? The result was that they didn't have any confidence they could. Fushan subconsciously gripped his fists. His eyes brightened, but in the next moment they were extinguished. This was because he knew that Tuba and Tutu didn't possess such formidable strength. For them to erupt with such strength, they must have used some sort of forbidden and unusual method. And it was impossible to maintain strength obtained through such a method for a long time. Once the two of them fell into a weakened state, the situation would spiral out of control. Sweeping his eyes around, he saw many Holy Nether guards leaning forwards, their fists subconsciously clenching. It was clear that they were filled with hope once more. But soon, they would discover that all of these hopes would turn into the deepest and most powerless despair. Fushan's thoughts raced. Tuba and Tutu had such powerful explosive methods. If they hadn't encountered the Golden Blood incident, they might have had a chance to rush out. Thinking of this, his heart violently twitched with pain. Could this be fate? Could the Holy Nethergar be trapped in the endless sea for generations? Any attempt they made would be ruthlessly crushed. Tuba and Tutu's attacks became increasingly heavy. They even stopped resisting the attacks of the monster beasts in the sea. Instead, they relied on their incomparably powerful mortal bodies to withstand the attacks in exchange for an even faster killing speed. They hoped to send His Highness out of the endless sea before they exhausted their strength. But according to the current situation, it was impossible for them to accomplish this. Beneath their iron fists, countless monster beasts in the sea were crushed to pieces. But their numbers didn't decrease at all. They filled the entire field of vision, leaving one feeling despair in their hearts. Tutu was the first to exhaust his strength. He punched the octopus monster beast in front of him. Then, his body shook and the runes on his skin rapidly faded away. What disappeared along with it was the violent aura within his body that was like 100,000 volcanoes erupting. His entire body instantly weakened, in a berserk state. Although the monster beasts in the sea had lost most of their reasoning, they still had their instinctive hunting abilities. A black-scaled sea snake shot forwards like an arrow. It was extremely fast, and its blood-red eyes were filled with a thirst for blood and slaughter. Unfortunately, it wasn't able to achieve its goal. The moment it was about to pierce through Tutu's throat, a palm appeared and instantly grasped. With this grasp, the sea snake's top body suddenly went limp. It was tossed aside and sank into the seabed. Tutu clenched his teeth. "Your Highness, don't worry about me," He knew that if he continued to live, he would only be a burden. Chinyu had a light expression. Don't have any foolish thoughts. You can die, but not today. He looked at Hai Lan Lan, who had opened her eyes. I'll leave those two to you. Next, it's my turn. Okay. Without saying anything more, she stepped forwards. Two bubbles appeared, wrapping around Tutu and Tuba. The latter took a deep breath and scattered it, immediately falling into a listless state. Looking at Chinyu, Hai Lan Lan really wanted to know, how could he be so calm at this time? The same thought appeared in the minds of everyone in Holy Nether City. As they saw Tuba and Tutu weaken, it was like their hearts had been pierced by arrows. But Chinyu's calmness caused a final glimmer of light to remain in their despairing eyes. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.